the meetings like that. Okay.
The stop signs were thrown. Yes.
That gets out for a few months and stuff. Like we did.
You did, yeah, I remember, yes.
And that's the only real solution.
I was sleeping
It is so
On the bridge.
Oh, yeah, the volume's all the way down. Can you hear us, Mary Lou? Okay, we're streaming. I'm gonna call the May 15th Town Board Workshop meeting to order. If we could all stand for the pledge to the flag. Charlotte kind of lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Our clerk won't be able to be present until later on this evening, so Charlotte is going to secretary the meeting until then. So I'm going to go ahead and take the roll call. So Councilman Coleman.
Here.
Councilwoman Smith.
Here.
And Supervisor Anawan. Here.
That's a long.
Okay. So our first agenda item is acceptance of the agenda, but I have some amendments that I'd like to propose. So I'd like to propose two resolutions, two resolutions, so an addition of two resolutions. So an agreement for professional services and designation of a town holiday. And then I'd like to add a discussion item, the watershed preserve forensic land use analysis. And then in the executive session, I wanted to add discussion of matters leading to the appointment of particular persons and discussion of current litigations. So do I have that motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain. Okay, so our next agenda item is we'd like to welcome Constable Miller to the table to talk about, oh, I skipped over one agenda item, which is not a big deal. I just wanted to remind the board that we agreed for our upcoming board meetings that in June, we are committing to going over the zoning draft, chapter 140 in its entirety at one meeting. So we all agreed that we would be doing our homework before that meeting and getting really prepared so that we can complete that code together. And then we also have a town board vacancy. And we had agreed that we were going to conduct interviews at our audit meeting this month. So I just wanted to remind everyone about those two things. And so now we'd like to have the Constable Miller come to the table. We had tabled a discussion about job titles and duties that we had on our last agenda because we wanted to have you here and sort of start tackling the conversation.
Hi, Mary Lou.
Great. So thank you for being here.
Did we figure out what the password was for these?
No, I printed them because it's the county.
You're talking about the COEs from the county? There isn't a passport, but
Yeah.
read only from the county.
Oh,
Yeah.
So
They never send me notes.
do you want a copy with the red? Okay.
Oh, I don't have the written.
Okay. So first, I just I thought that it might be good to just start by hearing from you, Rich, about the title, your feedback. I know you had sent former Supervisor Baden like some very technical
Yeah, that's true.
note, and so just sort of open up and hear from you about what you think about these the
Okay.
titles.
I mean, not much. Probably the most important thing to start with is on both of them, when personnel cut and pasted what they cut and pasted, they does everybody have a copy of that? Two things?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. I
So they
sent that.
just screwed up on a procedural point. First, it's circular logic. You can't get the training until you're appointed, but you can't get appointed unless you have the training. So that's the first part that has to be fixed. Then the second thing is they used completely the wrong section of law. So they have police officers under 209, but in actuality, it's peace officers under CPL 2.3.0 is the training. So that's in the little thing. I just cut and pasted that on and reworded it and attached it to the email. Sorry. That's probably somebody complaining about the detour again, because that's what I got a lot of today. So that's really the only thing I had when I got these originally. There really isn't anything in here that's of any criticality. The descriptions are fine. I mean, you have to remember where they came from is when Tanya DeWitt was still the head analyst for personnel, she wrote these based on stuff they had and sent them to both myself and Mike and looked over it and made changes. And this was what we ended up with from the description portion of it. So they had told me at that time and Mike that it was pre-approved, as written. So there wasn't any issue. The other thing is this job description just says we can do all of that stuff, but that doesn't mean we have to do all of it. But in order to be able to do it under civil service law, it has to be delineated. The other side of the coin is the Division of Criminal Justice Services, which has their own idea of what you can and can't do. And that's just based on, because they can't change it. That's just based on state law. And there's only 3 laws that really pertain is 2.10, 2.20, and 2.30 under criminal procedure law. And that, if you look way back into the minutes, you'll find essentially a cut and paste of 2.20 that's put in there. And those are all things we're allowed to do under state law that isn't really modern. And then later on, we got assigned things like the building department stuff. We're allowed to do it under state law, but we weren't doing it officially. And then the building department asked for us to do it and we started doing it, and it was and is quite successful. So we took those on as well. And that would be covered in the job descriptions on any other duties section that we're allowed by, unless it's precluded by any other law. So that's basically it. I'm open for questions. I mean, it's pretty cut and dried stuff.
Yeah, and I think just for, I guess, historical context, that we've had a constable department for a while.
15 years.
And when the positions sort of became civil service positions, we had this one title and description, constable. And that's what we currently have available in the town to make appointments. And this description, there's we are sort of bound by what activities we can assign to positions based on what is in the civil service description. So part of the purpose that, what was this, 1 year ago that we started this process? We started this request to the county.
When it actually got.
Yeah.
We went there.
Yeah.
I mean,
It
I
was-
was talking, but I think it actually got.
We had,
referred to
it was
the
a
county.
different board, basically, because there are things that our department does that, and specifically that you have historically done that don't really fall within the scope of this.
Correct. Bear in mind that for many, 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 many years, this wasn't a civil service position at all. It was, but it was in the non-competitive class, and we could hire people. There was no provisionals or any of that kind of stuff. And the decision by personnel at that time was you could call people whatever you wanted to, right, under what you decided. And that was fine. At some point, and I still to this day don't know exactly why, a letter was sent to state personnel, the State Department of Labor, asking for a reclassification of this particular job. A letter was sent back from them, which we all of us got a copy, all of our guys got a copy that said, that we've been asked to reclassify this position to the competitive class, and unless it meets one or more of these so where am I looking for, Mike? Things that disqualify, things that, right? First one was there's not a lot of hours to go around it. Second was the pay scale was traditionally low. And the third one was it was hard to find qualified candidates. Of which of those, all three applied to us, period. Recruitment takes up a lot of time getting qualified people. So all we had to do, or the board had to do, or at that time the supervisor had to do, was send a letter back saying, hey, we meet this criteria or that criteria. And they would have left us in the non-competitive class, which would have kind of negated a lot of this kind of stuff in general. No one ever responded to. They did not receive a response to the letter at all. So they decided to put us in the competitive class and they said they would set up a test at some point in the future. 2.5 years later, they announced a test. At that time, we had 8 people working for us as constables, and all of them signed up for the test. We went and took the test as a unit. We all went. In addition to us, there were 6 additional people total in the county at the test. So if our guys didn't have to take the test, there would have been 6 people at a civil service test. I don't know if you guys have ever taken a civil service test. That's not even a real number. That's nobody. Of those, 3 of them were instantly disqualified, right? They didn't live anywhere. They lived out of state. They didn't want to take the training. Whatever the reason was, they said no on their campus. They weren't interested. There are 3 additional people, as far as I know. I don't know if they've sent you the list yet, but there were 3 additional people with our exception. In the interim, because of all of this and other things that occurred, we lost essentially all of our best people. People who were working 1, 2, 3 days a week, who were coming in on time and doing all of that stuff. And it severely impacted our scheduling ability. As you've run part-time places before, you need a deeper pool to make sure that you have coverage. Mm-hmm. And from a financial standpoint, us having 3 times as many people as we need, there is no financial impact. They don't get paid unless they actually perform the job function on the hourly basis. So that's how we got to where we are today. Right now, realistically, we only have 3 people who are technically permitted to work right now. Myself, Jose Velasco, and Mark Cathcart. Mark only works court nights. Jose Velasco, I really never know when he's going to work. Sometimes it's 3 hours, sometimes it's 1 shift, and it changes weekly at the drop of a hat, which is an issue because.
Well, let's not
okay, but
discuss
that's
personnel.
That's fine. That's who we have. We have the new person who just came in and got appointed, but he doesn't have any training yet. So technically, he's not permitted to do most of that job description. He's got to go through the academy. I have scheduled an academy and gotten it approved. You guys got the email with all the approvals from DCJS, right? That was a while ago now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's the same thing to me.
It's just a lot, it's letters from them where they're all form letter. You're allowed to do this and do that. That is scheduled for June 3rd as a start date. We have right now about 8 agencies participating in that other than our own. If all goes well with personnel, and I know they're very difficult, we should have 2 of the other people that used to work for us in that class, which will give us a total of 5 people, which will make things a lot easier, especially since one of them is retired and can work more than a day, which would be fantastic. Right now, I personally, there are weeks where I work 4 days a week, 8 hours a day, and then I have all the phone calls and everything and the neighbor-to-neighbor disputes and the building department stuff, and I do it all, and I don't complain about it. I just get it done because I don't want to be the guy who doesn't answer the phone for somebody in trouble. Today, technically I wasn't working, but I answer the phone all the time. And I don't mind doing it, especially if it's someone in the elder care program or somebody who needs some help.
Are there other constables currently, just in terms of like
Mhm.
the discussion about the job titles and the duties? Are there other constables that are able to answer calls?
I don't want.
But if they wanted to, they could.
They don't have the skill set to do it currently. It's unfortunate, but because they're only doing one thing, their skills are stale. They haven't been to the new trainings. Things like fundamental crisis intervention for law enforcement. I personally wouldn't feel comfortable turning somebody loose to answer a call for help or a neighbor-to-neighbor dispute until they had that and a few other things. Those are just classes that are necessary to have. And realistically, they're not available on a specified time. So it's very hard to say, okay, on this day from this time to this time, you're taking care of those. So when we have more people, I can do that. It's actually quite easy to do that because there's always somebody that'll say, yeah, I'll do 4 hours, 3 hours. That's great. We just don't have the personnel. All of the ones we have now have state jobs that they're working either the whole day or, 4 to 12 or whatever it is. Thankfully, relatively stable hours for most of them, but it precludes the ability to do any kind of day-to-day operations. That's why that one individual we were talking about who's retired will be quite helpful, to get this stuff done. But I don't want to leave it by the wayside. There's too many people calls, to just, I think Jay Leno said it best when he was doing Doritos, right? Crunch all you want, we'll make more. And they do. They constantly, and it's part of the job description to deal with the public. I said to somebody the other day, and I said to you guys many times, that we're Andy of Mayberry. We deal with local problems with local people without making a big fuss about it and escalating the situation. It's just unnecessary to do that. And that's my superpower. That's what I teach when I'm teaching at West Point. I teach them how to deal with the general public as opposed to the military, because there's two very different things dealing with them. So that's what I do. I don't really have anything else to say about this kind of stuff. I know there's, Casey. Should we stop for a second? They let her get situated?
I think it's okay.
Okay.
She's early on her,
Earlier than expected.
on her own time. So in terms of, I guess what I really want to caution, I don't want to discuss personnel matters. I just want to discuss like overall buckets of needs and work and way communication is flowing. But what I hear you saying is there's certain tasks that you are covering independently based on trainings that appointed constables have received versus not.
That's part of it. For sure.
And is that documented? Do you keep that documented?
You have it. It's in my personnel folder. It's in everybody's personnel folder. You just open them. There's certificates for each set of training. And you'll see mine is several hundred pages and everybody else it's like 5.
But do we have that of like, this task can be done?
It's not that specific. It's not like you can go and talk to this person if you have this training. A lot of it's experience. It's one of the reasons we selected 520 hours for probation. Because, and it wasn't 520 hours being appointed, 6 months of time, because you don't learn enough. So many of our constables work 3 hours, 5 hours, whatever. So they're not gaining the experience of being out on the road and actually dealing with these people. Some of the people we have who are doing, say, the building department violations, they get firsthand training, with me to talk to the public, and they get good at it. And the goal was to get them up to speed so any other two could do it. But we only have one other person off probation currently. So that person's never available. So, I get it dropped on me, which I'm not complete. Don't think that I'm complaining about that. I'm not. It's just sometimes it gets a little difficult when I hear complaints about coverage. Really, it's not fair because we haven't really had any days. If you look back at the calendars, we really haven't.
Yeah.
And it's a challenge sometimes, as you know. We worked on it last week and we managed to solve the problem. I can fix problems. I'm good at it.
So the other constables aren't interested in taking the training? Is that what you're saying?
it's hard to get them to come in as a group as it is to take the training. The civil service thing though, we talked about this very briefly. According to civil service law, if you're a civil service employee, we can ask them as a town to come in for a minimum of 20 hours. And if you can't do the 20 hours, you don't have to keep this job. You can file and you can terminate them. It's been too long where it's whenever you feel like coming in, you come in, and there was no support structure. I can't come in, and that was it. It was over. When we had 15 people and I was running it day to day, it was very clear that number one, the buck stopped with me. And if I picked up the phone, I said, I see you can't come in. You need to replace yourself with somebody else in the pool. And lo and behold, they would be replaced and we wouldn't have a problem. And it wasn't adversarial in any way. It was just, that's how we did things.
So they don't want to take the training?
No, I have offered training after training after training, and nobody signs up for it from our agency.
Yeah.
I get tons from other agencies. Tons.
Yeah, and the reason I'm asking the question, I'm trying to figure out, it sounds to me like you have concerns about the sustainability long-term of the constabulary if you have to take all of the calls, if we can't spread that load around. I'm trying to figure out what strategies as board we might take to have more people, to have more training. If there's not an interest in training, then, we need to figure out what other solutions.
I used to have, when we had 15 people, I would have to say 7 out of 15. Anytime I offered training, they were there. They rearranged their schedules because you get a certificate. It goes on your record at the state. It makes you more employable, generally speaking, because you have a skill set that no one else in your peer group has. But the current crop, with one exception, but he's not permitted to take any more training until he does the initial training. So once he gets to that point, I have no fear that he's going to continuously do that. And I did try, like every year, they have to take 6 classes that we offer, typically at the end of July. And you'll see me put that out when the time comes. And I have to offer it on 2 separate days, Friday and Saturday, just to get them to come. And it's mandatory from the state. This is not an elective training. This is required. And often it's an afterthought. And we hadn't had that ever until recently.
One thing that I haven't ever been able to me as someone thinking about operations, areas of work and need, currently we have a set schedule of need, which is there's 28 hours at the court plus court night, which is a regular. To me, we could hire, when I think about the issues and what I've heard over the last 6 or so years since I've been tuning in, is one possible solution is to have a higher wage and regular schedule. So we're not managing having 15 employees who could or couldn't work like on payroll, but we don't really know their schedule. Instead, we manage our other departments. I think this is a very skilled job that requires a very high level of training, and it's incredibly important. And so to me, the pay should reflect that. So I'm curious, like that just right off the bat has always seemed to me like a sustainable direction to go in, where we could have people who are scheduled. And I guess I'm curious to hear.
You make an interesting point, for sure. The issue with highly skilled people is, in order for them to get to the point they're highly skilled, they are working full-time at some other job. And typically in the law enforcement game, it's on a rotating schedule. So one week they'll have this time, next week they'll have different time, and that could change at the drop of a hat, especially the state. Like right now, pretty much all state workers, but all of the corrections guys, at the drop of a hat, they're scheduled to leave at 8 in the morning. They get their stuff, they start walking out, and they say, "You're not leaving, you're working another shift." And they can't leave. And we don't know about that, and they don't know about that, because I don't think they want to tell them, because they don't want to stay. So what we can do, and we wrote a patrol guide, the board, myself, we wrote a patrol guide that delineated specific asks, wants, and requirements for the job. And the lowest rung of that was, if you take this job, if you agree to actually do it, then you are obligated to do a minimum of 1 full shift per week, a minimum. So if we had 5 people and everybody has to do 1 shift a week, we would have no scheduling issues. The enforcement of that went out the window. And that's because there is no person telling them they have to do that. Not in a harsh way, but when we were maintaining and enforcing that patrol guide, that section worked out great. Everybody knew. They didn't come in and then decide they were going to do less. They knew coming in, this is what they have to do. But then there were people who didn't want to do that. And instead of asking in writing, like it says, patrol guide, they would make a call to somebody's office here in town and say, oh yeah, this is too much. I have this excuse, I have that. Okay, don't worry about it. You don't have to listen. So the next thing I know, we have a giant hole in the schedule. Without a leader and without some modicum of discipline, and I'm not looking for heavy penalties here or anything even remotely like that, but they have to know the buck stops here, and if it doesn't, complaint's going to get written and submitted to the town board, and whether it be some censure or termination, that's what we used to do. I would write it up and I'd submit it, and then it was up to you guys to have some kind of talk with that individual employee. And that seemed to work pretty well. I think we only got there once, actually to the town board level, but we never had coverage issues. I had a detail for traffic for whatever reason. I put it out. We had more people than we had slots all the time. It was very, very, very simple. It wasn't contentious in any way. It was a group of guys that wanted to help each other, and that was great. Just don't have enough people to do that. So we need to get back to that. I think you guys have a copy of the current patrol guide, and we can certainly make changes to it. Remember, it's not policy unless you guys decide it's policy. It's stereo instructions. So like there's a chapter that says suspicious aircraft. Well, we may never have a suspicious aircraft, but if God forbid there is one, this is the this is who you notify. This is who you call. This is what you do when you see that. So that's what that's all about. It's just instructions on how to do it dated.
And just to be clear, just in terms of the town departments and the way our management is structured in the employee practices manual, all discipline comes from the town itself. So what we have are like supervisory employees that can inspect the work and then report that. But yeah, it would typically there's no disciplinary action that's taken by.
Well, that's what I said.
Okay.
I write it up. I say, listen, you need to do this. Here's your report. We even have forms for it. Thankfully, we don't use the ones.
So I think that all this is good background to like why the board did the request. You put in a request to the county for a job. And initially that was submitted as lead constable, the title. And last year, it was requested to see if that could get updated to chief. And I know you have strong feelings about that title in particular. So I think we also wanted to talk about that today.
Well, a word is a word. You have two different sides of the same coin. You've got Ulster County personnel who basically says they don't really care what it's called as long as the job description is the actual job, what you're doing. They don't care about it. Division of Criminal Justice Services has Chief Law Enforcement Officer. It's on all the forms. It's how I've been addressed for 13 years. Could you change it there? I guess you could, but I would still be responsible for it. There is a way, and there are villages that I teach that have the village mayor sign that section of the forms. However, when Carl Shipman wanted to do that, he was exploring that. He was told by the Board of Elections that you can't be appointed and elected at the same time. It's a conflict of interest. So we didn't. And what we do is I do all the work on the application, make a nice packet for you guys, and you've seen them over the years. I submit them to you, you go through the whole thing, you decide if you like the guy or not, you vote on whether you want to hire them, and then you either hire them or don't. So that's how it's traditionally been done. And once you make your decision, I wander around, Kate will attest to this, I wander around with this form that 5 people have to do.
Right.
And we do all that work, and then it gets mailed, because you can't do anything but snail mail, and it goes up to DCJS. And when I sign it, I am certifying that this individual meets the requirements and will continue to meet those requirements. If they don't meet those requirements and I've signed it or I've done something along those lines, then they're going to come after me personally for it. Because I'm responsible for them as an individual, and that's DCJS. That's how it's always been. That's every single agency with an ORI, an originating number, and an employer ID. So I'm not making the decisions, but I am the responsible party, which is why when I give you a packet, I make sure that this person is worth their weight in gold, because I don't want it to come back on me either. I like good people. And we've had many, many good people. Many, many good ones. Really, we haven't had any bad ones in recent memory. So as far as that goes, Chief Constable, if you look at every shred of documentation going 13 years ago, every single thing was Chief Constable from day one. My employment contract from day one, all the pitch to the board, all of that was the same. The board all voted on it as that was a title. And that's how I've become known to all these agencies. I mean, we teach 146 separate agencies at our academies. That's a big number, and they all know me as the Chief Constable. They call me for advice. They do that kind of thing. To change it now, I mean, I don't think it has that value. It's certainly going to take the cachet away from a training standpoint, for sure. But you guys, you do what you want. I just think it's a tempest in a teapot. Just leave it the way it is. Nobody cares. And if a board after you guys wants to change it when I'm gone, that is completely up to them, because this is right now, you're the only Ulster County town that has constables at all. Dutchess County, Orange County, Sullivan County, pretty much everybody else has them, and they're doing the primary law enforcement for those towns and villages, but not as many villages. But all the Dutchess ones all have chief constables. That's how they're listed, with one exception. The town of Unionvale used to call it constable in charge, because that's what it was 35 years ago or 45 years ago, but subsequently they're in the process of changing it right now to be in line with everybody else. So, I mean, that's all I have to say really on that. It's meaningful to me because I've put 13 years of my life into this place, setting this up from ground zero. You had mentioned that you asked me how many years we've had it. Actually, it started in 1710. Kate, do you remember when you pulled the records and found the establishing law in Dutch for it? And we had to have it translated and sent up to DCJS. That was, I have it. I wish we could find the original to put in the museum, right? But it's a long time ago. And even back then there was so it's a long, long, long history. You'll talk to a lot of people who had husbands or brothers or uncles who were constables here over the years. And it only stopped in 2003 for a short period of time because of the training requirements. Instead of 10 hours of training, now you need over 478. And that's a lot, for people. That's 5 nights a week for several months, and not including our a la carte. That's the basic class. We give them a lot more training. The basic people coming in, that's required. Like they get emergency vehicle operations, they get vehicle and traffic law, they get domestic violence, they get crisis intervention, they get first aid for first responders. All of this stuff is done in our academy. Most agencies that send also ask us to do additional. Some of them are only court officers. They're listed in the CPL's court officers. and they ask us to do magnetometer and court, which I'm qualified to teach. So I do that on the last day or the 2 days at the end. So depending upon their special duties, what they're doing. I mean, there are guys who are doing marine patrol. That's Yates County, does marine patrol, and they work in concert with the sheriff's department. But they have their own boats and they issue their own navigation summonses and all of that stuff. But it's you tell us what you want done, and if guys don't have the training to do it, I make sure we figure out how we can get that particular training for that particular job. As long as it's in the job description from civil service. And I am going to come back, maybe I will come back at some point after we get through the existing list, and see if maybe we can send a letter to the state to lift the competitive nature from this. Because right now, the best recruiting tool that we have, and Adam Paddock used to be the biggest proponent of this, is when I give an academy and I had 30, 40 people in it, I identified star players, the MVPs from that academy, people who learned, who wanted to work. And we would offer them a job at the end of the academy. So we didn't have to subsume any of the risk. And then they would go through their R application process, and then they would be hired and they would get additional training. So that was a great way to do it, but nobody will do it now because you would be hired provisionally. And we don't know if there's going to be another test or when indeed that test is going to be. And you could just work for 2 years, gather up all this stuff, go through your probationary period, and then lose your job. So it's very, very difficult. I have 2 applicants right now. One of them is a federal officer that really, really would like, who just moved into the area, really wants to work for us, and he's got a fantastic pedigree, but he's not interested in getting involved in a provisional job.
Mhm. Yeah, it's unfortunately, we've had this issue with other positions
Mhm.
that, you were saying that 6 or 10 was nothing, but we have some of our positions where only 3 people are taking the test.
Crazy.
But yeah, it's very
Crazy.
difficult because people feel like they could lose their position if they don't score in that.
Well, we
So-
do have some very good reasons, not only for our position, but for those as well, that not enough qualified applicants is like one of the big ones. If you don't, you make it non-competitive, and then you can recruit. You can go out and identify people and say, hey, if you want to come and work here, here are the criteria that are necessary. So what I do, I used to do a ton.
The other thing that came up
Mhm.
when I was corresponding with BCJS, because I had some questions for them,
Mhm.
they mentioned that, it's not uncommon to have a chief administrator. So,
A civilian.
yeah.
I've never seen one. Not for a constabulary, a police constabulary. I have seen chief administrators in very large district courts where it could be one of the court clerks doing it, as an adjunct, like the senior clerk. So she's not doing clerk work, she's managing that entire department. But I've never seen it in anyone who's got patrol functions or traffic or something like that, because the civilian isn't going to be familiar with all the things that have to be done to make this work.
Mhm.
How would we find that person? We used to have in the city, we had PAs, not production assistants, PAs. They were police assistants, and what they did is they managed the paperwork. So you would do something, you give them paperwork, they type it up. This was pre-computer. They type it all up, but you don't see those anymore. What, you want to be one? Oh, okay. But I have seen it, but it's not in my experience with 146 different agencies, not a single one of them has a civilian administrator. And it's probably not a great idea anyway. Do you want to give that poor person would have all the responsibility for a law enforcement act and not any of the training? You really want somebody who understands what's required and how you're supposed to do it procedurally. And the law, you need someone who understands the law. Mary Lou, you looking for another job?
So does Charlotte or Michael, do you have any other things that you wanted to share or ask what we have?
Yeah, I do want to clarify. So we're not proposing to change a title.
Mhm.
We are going to Ulster County Civil Service and asking them to create a title. You reached out to them and kind of brought this to their attention, and you suggested
I was the second person.
this title, correct?
No, they actually, when we were talking about it and went through the job description, they said that's similar to a chief of police, but it would be chief constable. And they looked at Dutchess County and Sullivan, I think, or maybe it was Greene. And that's where they got most of this that they sent me originally. That's where it came from.
Yeah, and you and I have talked about this. I know you say a word is a word, but to me, chief has a
It's
certain
chief constable.
chief constable,
Very
attending chief to constable has a very specific connotation for people. I think, we need to look at the structure of what our constabulary is. It's under the purview of the town board, supervisors, the department head for the constabulary. So I wouldn't want to create a situation where there's confusion about what the title means in terms of where the authority is derived from, what is allowed within that role. So to me, I'm not comfortable with the chief title, especially considering what we're discussing now in terms of, the size and scale of what the constabulary is doing. Because you said earlier, you're covering most of the calls. So to have a chief constable.
Well, we're going to change that.
Yeah,
That's the whole point.
And maybe that's something we can change in the future, but to me, I think, we really need to make sure that the role that we're asking Ulster County to create aligns with what the constabulary is in its current incarnation. I think if we want to have a police force, that can be a discussion we have. If we want to have patrols, if we want to have people out, doing this, if we feel like there's a need for that, I think that's a discussion we should have. We should have with the community. We should figure out whether or not that's the direction we want to go in. But the constabulary seems to be functioning well in its current role. I think, I wouldn't propose changing any of how the current supervision authority is working. So to me, I think putting a title there, I understand that it's important, but I also think this is how we're defining it for the county. So we need to be mindful of,
I
what
definitely
role we're putting in.
see your point, but as the county keeps telling us, they don't really care what the title is. What's much more important is the simple fact that I am mandated by the state to do many, many, many things that are not in the job description. They're in the current one. They're just not there. And I have been doing that for a really, really long time. And that's what really prompted them to come in and say, okay, we really have to come up with a new description that covers that, because I'm doing things that I shouldn't be doing. I have to do. And again, you've got civil service over here and you've got DCJS over here, and they're saying, by law, you got to do all of that, but you're not really supposed to be doing that based on the description. And that's
someone has to do it. And you currently have been doing it, I think.
Well, who else is going to?
Well,
that's the question.
For DCGS, the town supervisor can do those things, or a person who, it does not have to be a chief title. It's whoever is in charge of the department. So it could be, but I'm just saying, currently you are filling that role and you have been filling that role. There's not a mandate that you personally do it. It's just, that's been the custom that's been happening. Correct.
I would say it's much more than a custom.
Well, I'm saying that's what's been happening. So yes, and so that's why we're retaining this title with service, but it could be the town supervisor, it could be the officer in charge. There's different titles for that role that could sign off. It doesn't have to be a chief title.
No, but traditionally it is. And it is at pretty much every other place. And chief constable, it is my actual function. That's what I do. When people call me, they're looking for that. They're looking for somebody to talk to. They don't want to talk to somebody else. They want to talk to me. And I've earned that respect over a decade here. And I feel very, very strongly about this. And if you guys want to change it later down the road, that's completely up to you guys. But as far as doing all the stuff on this list, and I know you've read the list, there's a lot of stuff to do there, and delegation of responsibility is kind of a critical thing for any manager and leader. To speak to you as far as the authority, it's not going to change any of that. I'm still getting marching orders from the board and the supervisor as a whole. Do this, do this, do this, don't do this, don't do this. I'm just disseminating that information like I've always done before to make sure it's managed properly on a day-to-day basis. So it's not, we're not gonna, and we talked about this, I don't care if it's a department head or a supervising or employee, that doesn't make any difference. It's just, it needs to be a point of contact. You get an emergency situation, and this is just an example, that something's going, a big accident happened on 209, I get called. It's my job to call the supervisor and say, here's what's going on. This may trigger an emergency. We might need this, we might need that, and to coordinate with the ambulance squad and to make sure that if we are the first people notified, we get other people there. Because sometimes they don't know about it until it actually occurs. There has to be a point of contact for first responder emergency services. And I'm not talking about ambulance, I'm not talking about fire. They have their own structure, and it's very similar to what we have now. It's the right way to do things, to have a primary organizer. You can't have 10 chefs. And right now, we don't have that many chefs. We don't, but we will. You know, even if we get these 3 extra people that are at civil service level right now, and we train them up, and they're trained to my specifications for the town, which is pre-approved, then we'll have 5 people. And then hopefully we'll be able to hire a few more so we have some backup people like we had in the past. And then pretty much all of this just gets alleviated. And you'll get my reports at the end of the month that says we covered everything, everything is great. And then if you need something, or you need something, or you need something above and beyond that we're not doing on a daily basis, send a quick email and we make it happen, provided it's within the budget.
Well, I'd like more detail in the reports. I did ask you for that, so.
Well,
Something
certain
we
things I can't, I'm not allowed if they're open cases. And you were gonna send me a form.
Yeah,
The,
We can work on it
currently
together.
though,
Okay.
the constabulary is not a first responder agency.
We are definitely a first responder agency.
An emergency,
We are 100% a first responder agency.
so can you explain the difference? Because I'm, like on the website, it says if you have an emergency, call 911.
Every department of any kind puts that on there because you don't want someone calling your 7-digit number instead of 911 in an emergency.
Right, yeah.
Like to every single, that's boilerplate. We put it on everything. As far as first responder agency, there's a resolution somewhere in the books that says we're supposed to answer all 911 calls in town when available, which is great. We don't have the availability currently, so we're not doing that. But on demand, I get a call at 3 o'clock in the morning if there's something that we can do, whether it's as simple as making a phone call to another agency and getting them notified of it. We do it if it means I have to get up and go and take care of it, like a lot of the short-term rental stuff. Middle of the night in the summer, you know, someone is throwing bottles through someone's window.
Mhm.
I will typically go and call for backup. I don't often do that when we don't have another person. If it's something that involves violence, right? We operate with 2-man cars specifically because of backup. You know, town's very large, 88.8 square miles, 122 miles worth of roads. So that's part of the issue the state and the sheriffs have. They don't have people at all, you know, so we can do triage for a lot of that stuff. You've been dealing with the ambulance calls a lot. Some of them, when you get there, they seem like they're not going to be anything, and then, oh my God, it's something big, and vice versa. So if you were, one of my guys was and is an EMT, you know who I mean, he used to put his BLS bag in the trunk, and we'd work together for an 8-hour shift, and we would always be the first people there because we didn't have to assemble anybody. We'd get there, and often he'd pick up his KFAS radio and say, here's what we got. And then instead of being a disaster, it was a save. We used to do a lot of that because we have some very remote areas with no radio coverage. And that's terrifying to a lot of people who live out there. I'm talking to a woman right now, the one that joined the elder care.
Mhm.
Yeah, she's rightly so. So that's the kind of stuff that we need to get back to, is that assisting the general public in getting stuff done for them in any capacity. Even if it's just like, I know every social service program that's out there, I keep myself abreast of it. If someone calls me and says, hey, I'm having difficulty getting my pharmaceuticals or this, that, I know where to send them, whether it be, we don't have any local programs for that, but certainly where there's county programs and there's state programs and federal programs. And I make sure they get that information, and then I follow up with them to see if they need any additional assistance. I do it all the time. It doesn't amount to a report or a crime. I put it in the elder care reports usually, those kinds of things, because that's really most of the time what they are. We're coming into summer. This is our traditional, in the winter, we don't do very much except for court and the odd event. But in the summer, it gets very, very, very busy, especially traffic details based on the event spaces that we have out in town. And there's additional ones coming. And then we have the camps will populate here, and it almost doubles our population and the traffic volume on the roads. It gets very, very big. And
So-
that's where we need to have our guys out.
So we're going on 7:30.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And so I just wanted to make sure that the board members have. Charlotte?
Yeah, I've gotten to I've talked with Rich between our elder care updates and whatnot about this before. I personally, with discussion with the rest of the board, I don't have an issue with chief matching up with this description. I understand your concerns, Councilman Coleman, but we only allow them to direct and supervise the activities of constables. So they don't, it would still, like, that to me is a fail-safe of hierarchy, written in the description, where for like reprimanding and things like that would come to us. It would be something that gets referred to us, like consent or what have you. My only question for Rich is, how do you think, at least as far as recruitment wise, because I hear that the department is short-staffed and coverage is a big issue right now going on. I know pay is definitely one way to help incentivize some. Do you think that it'd be possible to have a full-time person come from like a training class that would want to work full-time?
No.
Or is it mostly like
The problem
people
with
who have
full-time is
full-time state other jobs that tend to fill?
it's mostly that and retirees, and the retirees don't want to do full-time hours because they're retired. And the state workers can't commit to that, and they'd be in violation of their obligation if they said, yes, I'll work full-time, and then they can only work 5 hours a week. So we've traditionally done plus you have to deal with health, pension, and welfare benefits, all that stuff, which you do for other people is fine, but that's an extra layer of complexity that I think is unnecessary. As long as they take, I've asked for a contract, which we had an employment contract for a while, which really just says you must work 1 shift a week. And then if they don't, I would report it to the board in writing, and you guys decide how to deal with that particular issue. But we need them to understand new hires on board. This is the expectation of this job. Because it's civil service, you can expect 20 hours a week out of it, right? Mandated. You can say, if you can't work 20 hours a week, then you really can't take this job. So I don't think we're ever going to want to do that to anybody, but certainly with the 28 plus 4 hours that we have now, forgetting about all the other stuff, we should be able to at least mandate 1 full shift a week of that, especially given that it's Monday through Thursday. That would alleviate a lot of problems if they knew coming in, this is the expectation. And the guys we have now knew that, but new people it should be a little bit more forceful, a little bit more structured as far as that goes. Does that answer your question?
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, so I think we should, so in terms of just next steps, I think there's definitely, just for awareness, we're working through the civil service certificate of eligibles list. It's a very specific process of making the permanent appointments and then getting the certified list back and then making the appointments from that. So we're going through that process. And the training is next month. We are also trying to get some things set. We've been talking about enforcement. So we have the court, which is a set. Then we also have a lot of parking laws that it's very critical that we be able to enforce those. And we currently are not able to do that. We're coming up on the time of year where a lot of the issues from having more people in town can arise. So we're working through those things. In terms of what the titles and the descriptions, so these red lines that I printed out came from civil service. They've asked us, the board, for feedback on them. So that's where we're at. Once they create the positions, that's when the board would adopt those positions. You know, the new one. That would
Just
be,
a quick question. At what point do they fix their mistake?
so we're
So
at
that
the,
would be in us.
we're at the point of the board needing to submit feedback.
Feedback, yes.
Okay.
We'd be submitted.
Because that would kill us completely.
That would be submitted what we're
Gotcha.
sending through the next step of this.
Thank you.
Right, so that's kind of where we're at, and for myself, I would like this to be, you know, if we're submitting feedback, I want it to be from the board and not just me. And so I do think that we do need further discussion, because I also have concerns about the implications of a chief title. So I don't know that I'm personally, especially with a 3-person board, I don't want to necessarily vote tonight on the feedback unless we want to put that off till our discussion portion. And it's been really good having you here, Rich. And you know, I think that's.
I do have a question. What is the concerns you have about that word? What connotations do you think it bestows on anyone, just generally speaking, not me, not just generally speaking? You and I have discussed this, I get it, but what are you thinking it adds or subtracts to the position?
I think all the other titles currently that Ulster County has that are chief title are not in a law enforcement capacity. It's like chief records officer. I can't remember what all of them are. And typically I think of a chief of a independent agency, whereas the constabulary is not an independent agency, it's a department of the town. So I think for me, the idea of, you know, what comes along with the public's, you know, the concept of a chief law enforcement officer, like a chief of police, doesn't match what I think the current sort of legal structure of what the constabulary is. And that's just been a concern that we've had, you know, that's come up for the past 2 years, but now we're at this point where, you know, we are considering the title itself. And so, you know, that's where we're at.
Okay, I just don't see personally, it's just me. I don't see that the word really means anything in any connotation, especially given that it's not chief of, or it's just chief constable. The word's still attached there, it's used, and that's how people identify me, as it is. It doesn't change the level of authority. I'm still beholden to the board and the supervisor directly. You have the handbook, the employee's handbook, which will list it as whatever you want to call it, whether it's supervising or what have you, which is clearly delineated as to the structure of the town and employment within. So I personally just don't see it. I mean, I know it could be a psychological thing, like, oh my God, that's the chief. But I am taking responsibility for all of these people. Right? I mean, I am. There is no way around that. You know, if I teach them how to do something, if they're in our academy or they learn something during field training, and God forbid something happens, I'm the one they call to go to court to testify that when we signed off on them, they had the proper training and things were done. I get grilled. They're not gonna call the town board. They're not gonna call the town supervisor. They're gonna call the head law enforcement officer to do that. So I'm taking all the risk. And we're quibbling over a word. So that's all I really need to say about that entire thing. But I gotta tell you, that's, if every other agency that I teach, they're all the same, except this one, then at some point, somebody said this really doesn't matter at all, you know? So please take that into consideration when you guys have the discussion.
Okay.
And let me know sooner
Yeah.
rather than later. We do have an enormous, you guys have an enormous task to do in a very short period of time. Because if we're gonna get more people who desperately need, we need to square away the civil service stuff and the appointments. When is your last May meeting?
It's the 30. It's 30th. It's the 30th.
Okay.
Yeah.
So really,
Yeah,
that is the drop dead date to make sure that civil service is squared away so we can appoint the guys who have been mistakenly removed.
Yeah.
Just so we have some people learning the trade.
Okay. Great. Thank you, Rich. We will definitely take everything you shared into.
Thank you.
Okay.
Which I wasn't against you, that was, he said he hired me as a client, because he's seen what I can do on it.
I think y'all would hire you.
Okay,
And we got
so,
all the laws, that's the problem. You guys take the tickets out.
all right. So our next agenda item is the review of the environmental assessment form that Mary Lou did for us. Let's see. And I forwarded that to the board. So that is for we had a zoning, an application for rezoning for 6 Sampsonville Road. So this is the long form for the seeker determination. So does everybody have that? Okay. I don't have it up. That's what we're waiting on, is me. Okay. There we go. Okay, so do you want to, so we can complete part 2 at the meeting. All right, so basically, everything is no for this full form. And then do you guys want to go through it, or just sort of like you feel?
I'm just re-skimming it. I looked through it earlier and I didn't see anything.
Okay.
That seemed wrong. I was wondering.
And then. Mary Lou, you just sent part 1?
I did part 1, and
Yeah.
then on part 2 is where it will ask you whether there's going to be effects on, you know, a laundry list of different things. And all you're doing is changing a zoning designation. You're not approving a project or anything that goes along with it. So just changing that designation, it's my opinion that you'd answer all those questions. No, that they're not going to have any effect.
Do we need to have C3, item C checked? As yes?
What is C3 item C?
Is the zoning change requested as part of the proposed action? We just don't have the yes checked. We have it.
Oh,
filled
yeah,
in.
I'm sorry, that is a yes. Yep.
Does it matter? Because we have it filled in.
You can, Erin can just check it off on her copy.
Okay.
She's the one who's going to be signing everything, so. Sorry, I missed that.
It's all right. You did a great job.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so that was C3.
And then I also had on there to fill in the date of the application from Ms. Diamond. And that is
Oh.
in B.
Yes. That's in B of part
It's
2?
on page 2 of the EAF
Oh, okay,
at the top,
okay.
where I said that it requires the
Oh,
an action.
application, got it. Okay, so that is the date for that. I think I have it. Let's see. I had the application out earlier today. Here. Oh, here it is. So that would be the one that the receipt by date that the office has, that the code enforcement
Yeah,
office has?
yes, the receipt date.
Okay.
Yep, that's stamped on there.
Okay, great. So that is February 7.
And then after you've got that,
Okay,
the other thing I needed you to fill in, it might be 3-4B. It's the fire department. I wasn't sure what district or they were in. I don't know if it's Accord. I don't know if it's Kerhonkson. Does anybody know who covers
I
that?
think it's still Accord because there's only very few that are for Hodgson, and that's more towards the Burn Road end. So I
Okay,
would say it's Accord.
so
Okay.
that you just need to fill in that it's Accord Fire.
okay. I'm in my forms. What page is that?
That's also the second page down below
Oh, got it.
that chart 3, 4 maybe.
So, other local agencies, coastal.
Nope, it's under all that. There's the part that asks what school district it's in. And it asks what emergency services, it asks what police. Then it
Okay.
asks about fire and emergency service. So I put in KFAS, but I did not know for sure about the fire, so I didn't add that in.
C4C, school district, police, fire, so that's Accord. Okay. Great.
All right, so that's everything on
Part 1.
the part 1, and then the
Okay.
part 2 asks all the different questions about environmental significance, but there's, in my opinion, there's really nothing that would be answered other than no. Let me pull up a part 2.
Okay. So the impacts on land, that section.
Right, if you just, yeah, if you want to go through it.
Okay,
We can.
so we've done this before. So the one impact on land, proposed action may involve construction on or physical alteration of the land surface of the proposed site. Yes, if yes, you answer the questions. If no, you move on. So we're saying no, because it's just this legislative act. Okay. And then impact on geological features. The proposed action may result in the modification or destruction of or inhibit access to any unique or unusual landforms on the site, cliff, dunes, minerals, fossils, caves. The answer is no. Impacts on water, The proposed action may affect one or more wetlands or other surface water bodies, streams, rivers, ponds, or lakes. No. Impact on groundwater. The proposed action may result in new or additional use of groundwater or may have the potential to introduce contaminants to groundwater or an aquifer. No. Impact on flooding. The proposed action may result in development on land subject to flooding. No. Impacts on air. The proposed action may include a state-regulated air emission source.
No.
No. Impacts on plants and animals. The proposed action may result in loss of flora or fauna. No. Impacts on agricultural resources. The proposed action may impact agricultural resources. The answer is no. Impact on aesthetic resources. The land use of the proposed action are obviously different from or are in sharp contrast to current land use patterns between the proposed project and a scenic or aesthetic resource. No. And impact on historic and archaeological resources. The proposed action may occur in or adjacent to a historic or archaeological resource. No. Impact on open space and recreation. The proposed action may result in a loss of recreational opportunities or a reduction of an open space resource as designated in any adopted municipal open space plan. No. Impact on critical environmental areas. The proposed action may be located within or adjacent to a critical environmental area. No. Impact on transportation. The proposed action may result in a change to existing transportation systems. No. Impact on energy. The proposed action may cause an increase in the use of any form of energy. No. Impact on noise, odor, and light. The proposed action may result in an increase in noise, odors, or outdoor lighting. No. Impact on human health. The proposed action may have an impact on human health from exposure to new or existing sources of contaminants. No. Consistency with community plans. The proposed action is not consistent with adopted community use plans. No. Consistency with community character. The proposed project is inconsistent with the existing community character. No. Okay.
I love double negatives.
Yes. Okay, and then.
And then with that, I think you have the rest down for a resolution later, correct?
Yes. Okay, so that is, yeah. No, and then. Great, so that's later. So our next portion of the agenda is resolutions, but I wanted to ask the board if it's okay to hear from, the next resolution is with regard to the Boyce Mill Road and Dunn Farm stop sign resolution that's next on the agenda. But I wanted to see if it's okay with the board if we hear if the neighbors of that stop sign wanted to address the board, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
My concern is I've lived there all my life. It's not a great intersection, never has been. With the traffic that, forget the bridge and the detour, with the traffic that's been going through there, the only people who stop are the people who live in that area. There's one stop sign on our property that comes off the bridge. Everybody else just flies from the top of the hill, from Fisher and Crum, all the way down through the S-turn and up to Flats, where they started the Flats. And because there's a line of sight right now and there's no leaves on the trees, they floor it. They come up through there at 45, 50 miles an hour, very rarely. And my other issue is the speed sign. I was told that the speed signs cannot be reduced. Don't know why. They said it was just state regulations and it's a 35-mile-an-hour road that they've adopted from the state. It's not a 35-mile-an-hour through that area. I'm tired of almost getting hit walking to my mailbox or taking walks on the road Jay, our neighbor, is tired of almost getting hit pulling out of his driveway. There is no way that people slow down through there. Stop signs were put up, from what I understand, they lasted 2 weeks, they came down. I understand, from my understanding, it wasn't proposed the right way. 2 wrongs don't make a right in my book. Finally got stop signs, they're gone. Nobody communicated with us. Nobody told us they were going up, except Jeff. They were delayed because he had ordered them. Town never consulted us. The request, I'm old fashioned. I'd rather speak to you in person rather than writing a documentary why we need stop signs on that road and reduce speed. It's dangerous. Somebody's gonna get hurt.
Lost an animal.
There were multiple accidents over the years, but now that the detour signs are up and not being followed, it's chaos. Over the bridge that is designated 4 times, that's an issue. We don't want the bridge closed, just saying that. A replacement bridge would be great. Appropriate to the size of the road and the construction of the road. 4-ton signs. The bridge is here. This is the bridge. There's this 4-ton sign on the bridge and a 4-ton sign on the bridge. There's no room to turn around to advise anybody that you shouldn't be going that way. Most of the vehicles get to that point on the bridge and they just go across it. Since Monday, the road's been closed. We have 2 school buses that go over the bridge. That weigh over 4 tons. We have fuel trucks, we have dump trucks, we have town trucks, we have construction trucks. We have seen in the past 3 days, it's Wednesday, 4 people back up and turn around and go out to tow a line on Boyce Mill Road. Something needs to be done before somebody gets hurt. I'm putting in a request because I don't want to be the person who gets hurt or my car gets hit. I don't want to see anybody else getting hit on that intersection. And I don't necessarily, it may sound whatever, but I don't think the town needs to take the risk of getting sued because there's a lack of speed control or traffic control on a back road that has been designated a country road, Open Farmland Act to stop development by Frank Dunn when the Dunn farm was sold off. It's just not a road. I understand it's temporary and there's construction, that's fine. But something needs to be done to stop and slow down traffic through that triangle. It's not good. And I'm tired of hearing vehicles that don't belong on the road to begin with, revving their engines, coming through the downhill up and around the corner at 35, 40, 45 miles an hour because they think they can have a clear view and they can see. We almost had an accident on the bridge yesterday where a pickup truck, a construction pickup truck with a huge trailer on the back, the signs are poorly placed anyway, and that's not your guys' problem, decided to go down the road anyway, and another car cutting through came across the bridge. They almost had a head-on collision. Then there's another car coming behind the pickup truck that shouldn't have been there to begin with. It was almost a 3-car pileup, and my son was on the other side of the road weed whacking. It's not safe. Our concern is the safety. I understand we're the only ones, it's a 3-corner. On the farm, there's nobody there all the time. But just because there's only 2 houses in that intersection, doesn't mean it should be ignored or forgotten, or say, oh, we don't need a stop sign. There's only 2 people who live on that intersection. And that's what I feel has been going on for years. We've been requesting this for years to put some kind of traffic control there.
The only way the other stop sign got put up was because the sheriff hit the neighbor head on, state trooper years ago. And then all of a sudden they paved right to my road, to my house, took away 14 feet in front of our house. paved it to widen it open and put a stop sign
It
that
just makes
is
people go faster.
18 feet back from the intersection.
Yeah.
So what good is the stop sign back here when they have to creep up another 20 feet to see
And
the
on the
intersection?
other side where the bridge is proposed and that stop sign, there's no warning, there's a stop sign ahead.
Slow down.
There's just nothing there to protect people on that road. And I don't even care if it's people going through construction. Somebody is gonna wind up getting hurt. And I don't want it to be me, my family, my granddaughter, my neighbors, anybody, even somebody I don't know. I don't want them getting hurt. We had 2 years ago, we had a girl come flying down the hill, took out the corner of our rock wall. One of these huge massive boulders is down on the side of the road. People do not slow down, and there's no warning to ask them to slow down. And a 35-mile-an-hour zone through there is just not adequate or sufficient. And I understand there's not a lot of neighbors here. And in one of the last meetings with the bridge and everything, the town only sends out notices within a 500-foot radius. That's state mandated, that's what we were told. I don't understand. The town, I understand, has been going through a lot. Staff-wise and non-communication, that's what I'm coming to understand. Very poor communication within this town. Hopefully things will get better. But it's frustrating that it takes so much to get a simple thing done. Maybe you guys don't see it as a simple thing, a stop sign or a speed control. Maybe it's not important enough for the board to take time out to do that. But I'm asking you to please do that. Because it is a dangerous intersection that people are flying through. And it's just not safe. And I, like I said, I don't want to see anybody getting hurt. I don't want to get hit. Something needs to be done. And the fact that the stop signs were put up and then removed with no communication from the board or anybody in the town. And when you make a phone call, all you get is a recording. Please leave a message in your phone number or return your call. Sometimes you get a call back, sometimes you never get a call back. So I just keep calling and calling and calling. I'm asking something to be done within short term, because not only for long term after the bridge project is done in Samsonville, but especially now that people are using that bridge and using that as a bypass, and they're flying to work, they're flying home from work, and they don't care.
You don't have to just ask us, this gentleman was there and seen it hands on, running through the stop sign, people flying down the road 80 miles an hour.
And you can only ask so many times for a constable or a state trooper or a sheriff's office to sit there. They don't want to sit there wasting time to catch 2 or 3 or 4 a day going through. I don't know what the easy answer is or simple answer, but we need something done and we need it done as soon as possible.
Thank you for coming, and I know we spoke and emails and our correspondence to the board. Before we move on to resolutions?
Well, I appreciate you coming down and talking to us in person. My number's on the website, so you can call me. You will get a voicemail.
Use my language, but your website sucks.
We're upgrading it.
Yeah,
We're
we're
upgrading.
upgrading.
You will get a voicemail if you call me though, but leave a message, I will call you back, I promise. I do screen my calls because I get a lot of
I'm
calls.
sure you do, and I don't blame anybody for doing
Um,
that.
But then I'll save you on my phone and then I will answer the next time you call. Yeah, this came up for me personally when we discussed it in the last meeting. So I was not aware, and I'm sorry that you were contacting and felt like things weren't being done. I think the board wants to make sure we address this. I know that I do. I'm not clear why signs were removed. I know we had talked about tagging.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there was some concern, and we have to think about it from a liability perspective too. God forbid somebody does something and then they're like, well, this wasn't done properly. Now the town is.
But they were working.
Yeah.
They were working.
Yeah, well, that's good to hear. So
They
yeah.
were working.
Yeah, but I just want to thank you for coming out and sitting here. I know you've sitting here for a while, so.
No, that's fine. Like I said, I would rather speak in person rather than write a letter with all the bullet points and everything in it.
Yeah.
It doesn't make as big of an impact. And I hope it makes a big impact if something needs to be done.
Thank you.
And I also thank you for coming down and letting us know, and speaking to us. And I think that we'd all be received.
No, yeah, that's fine. And I appreciate your
But
time.
I just wanna say, I know you said, just one thing that you had said, I think you said that you weren't sure if we thought it was a simple thing to do. It is a simple thing to do if the procedure
If
is
it's done right.
followed. We was not, that was not on us. to
No,
advise
no,
us.
and I'm not.
Now they got back, so I just wanted to. Yeah,
It's just the lack of communication of wherever it got linked before. Because we were gone when it got put up. 2 days later, 5 o'clock in the morning, they're gone.
Whiplash.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, we had asked for them to just be bagged like they do with the ones on Lucas when they put them in at Kaiser, when they were bagged, all this painting and everything. So, but thank you for coming down. Again, I understand. I grew up by choice, so I used to drive that intersection.
Shortcut.
Were you
Yeah.
driving fast?
I was the girl walking from
Like,
the
I
way.
have a good one, so.
Yeah. Oh, you did?
Yeah. I do know with the speed, I believe it can't be lowered unless you're in a hamlet or a school zone. I think that is the lowest it would go. I remember that from past situations.
Sure, it's 25.
In order to
Is
lower
it-
the
might be
speed,
the hamlet?
I can tell you the procedure to lower the speed.
Oh, wait, yeah.
We would have to, both the county highway superintendent and the town board would have to put a request into New York State. They would then do a speed study. New York State determines the speed on town roads.
Okay, but it is up to the town in general to put up stop signs without having. to
Yes.
go through that
Yes, and that's by
lengthy-
town board resolution. That's not
Okay,
something the
okay.
highway department can do
Thank
on
you.
their own. And that's why they had to be taken down or covered. And now the town board is
Okay.
looking to vote on that tonight to get whether or not to put them back up.
Can I just make one more simple suggestion? I don't know how simple it is, but I think you get a lot more town participation if you had an electronic billboard like at Kelders or something, like the high school has, saying when meetings are, what topics are being issued. There's so many people. We don't get involved in a lot of stuff. My opinion is you buy property, you follow the rules, you follow the regulations, you do what you want on your property. That's my opinion. But when it comes to public safety and my own personal safety, that's starting to where I'm drawing the line and I'm getting involved. I'm not working full-time anymore, I'm home a lot more, I see a lot more. And I've always known the road is dangerous, but I'm working out in the garden and people come down around through those turns, not on their side of the road. And I'm 15 feet off the road and you can right on by.
So what I heard is you would like to see stop sign and head signs long before the stop signs. And
Yes.
lower tonnage of the bridge long before the actual bridge.
Exactly.
That's proper sign, it should be out by 209, so.
And I would
Yeah,
look,
yeah.
I look all this stuff up on the state
That's what he
websites and that's, it's, yeah.
Okay, so I think we should move on to the resolution. There is one, well, we should go for the proposed resolution and I have one slightly complicating factor
That you didn't add?
that I didn't add because it just came up today. So, so I think we can address it in discussion though. So,
I'll make a motion as presented for resolution B to authorize the installation of 2 new stop signs to be installed at the intersection of Boys Mill Road and Dunn Farm Road.
Can't
I'll
thank you
second.
guys enough seriously for listening and taking it seriously.
so here's
Yeah.
for discussion, Mary Lou and board, this is the complicating factor is that, the highway superintendent indicated today to me that he no longer wanted there to be stop signs because he'd been receiving a lot of feedback that people did not like them when they went
Yeah,
up,
because there are people who
And-
have to stop.
that they were glad that they were gone. So I said that I would bring that up to the board. Before that, I was convinced that we needed the stop signs after speaking to the neighbors, and I also live on the road. So the way the resolution is presented, if we're going to pass it, I feel like we maybe need to edit it. Mary Lou, amend it, sorry.
That's one of the things that
And I want to do,
is, I'm sorry, Mary
Oh.
Lou, is that the fact that
We have a sorry.
at this point,
We have a motion.
yeah, there's a motion on the floor and it's just town board discussion, not public discussion. Sorry, because you've given a lot of valuable information. I want to look to see if we must have a request from the highway superintendent. I'm not sure about that. So you may want to table it and I can look as you go on with other things
Okay.
and then we can decide
If we
later.
get the answer before the end of the meeting, then we can.
Right.
Okay.
Right. While I'm trying to pay attention to the meeting, I'll try and do a little research at the same time.
Okay, that's.
All right.
Okay,
Okay.
so we're gonna table the motion that's on the floor.
Okay, can I ask? did any
My,
of it-
my last point, and then we'll leave and let you go away. People who are complaining to the highway superintendent is a history in the town of you complain a lot. Things just change without any heads up or anything like that. People who are complaining are the ones who have to stop or slow down. I want that on record, guaranteed. And if I have to stand out in the middle of the road and take pictures like I have in the past 3 days, I will.
Well, I
Because
don't want
something
you to
needs to
do
be
that.
done.
No.
All right, thank you guys for listening.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
I'd be interested in seeing, if people don't want the signs, I want to see it in writing. What's the explanation for it? Health and safety of residents, to me, is important, so if it's a nuisance, that's
Yeah,
not as compelling.
I think my concern is what Mary Lou's concern is do we have to have his recommendation? And if we do, then I feel like we have to go back and get everything in writing. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
It
so
was
what-
a verbal conversation that it was not in writing, but at this point, I don't, like, to Mary Lou's point, we either need to amend this resolution and just say it's totally our decision,
That's fine.
or we would need to try to negotiate. Because I was convinced that we needed that. So, okay. So moving on to see the 284 highway agreement, the town of Rochester, I'll make the motion that the town of Rochester Town Board approves the highway agreement of expenditures of highway monies for 2024 as presented. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Discussion. I wanted what I had presented to you 2 weeks ago. There's the slight modification has been made that breaks out the labor and materials versus materials costs as Mary Lou had advised us.
And I just wanna make sure I tried right, that this schedule, or the highway agreement, that is the numbers in there, those ones came from CHIPS for what our allotment.
That everything in that agreement is CHIPS reimbursable to the amount that is on that agreement.
But that's the amount that we got from.
That we would
That we
get.
will get.
Okay,
We spend the money first and then they reimburse us.
yes, CHIPS was lowered 1% across Ulster County, this year. I was informed by the former, Ulster County Highway Superintendent. Just as a heads up warning for us to kind of make sense when we're looking at the budget, when things are coming in for the revenue side of it. Because I don't know, I just found that out, literally a day and a half ago, so I didn't get a chance to call and ask Jeff if that was in these calculated for these numbers or not. But just that, that,
Yeah.
to keep it on our minds, because I did find that out, so I wanted to bring it up.
I was told that it's all in line with what is going to be reimbursed. The other change that I forgot to mention from what I presented 2 weeks ago is the total for the truck is increased to reflect the actual cost of the truck. But I was told that what we are due from CHIPS covers the full agreement, including that change. So
Yeah, I'm fine with approving it as is. I just because it's, CHIPS is always it's like grant money where it's like you don't
Yeah.
know exactly what you're gonna get, so I know it's kind of a educated guessing game, but just, I know that they just released that they were lowering it by 1%, Mr. Kim, so. That's what I just wanted to bring up, so I'm.
Do you have it to sign tonight? Cause I
do. I have
Okay,
the
so once you
copies.
sign it, I send it to the county.
I have 2 copies. I didn't label my folders, so I'm sorry. I'm like awkward.
While you're looking for that, you don't need Jeff's recommendation to do the stop signs.
Okay.
You do not?
You do not.
Okay. So are we ready to vote on the 284 agreement? Then, okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain. Okay, so there's 2 copies of this agreement for board members to sign. And then they will get sent to the right,
I send it to the county highway.
Yeah.
He signs off and this is.
Yeah. okay. Yes, I think you can sign in pink, right? Okay. Okay, so D, we have, authorizing the use of town highways.
I'll make that motion.
Sure. I can read them. The recommended resolution is the Town of Rochester Town Board authorizes the use of certain town roadways as presented for the charity bike ride event. The Ride for Mental Health to be held June 22nd, 2024 and June 23rd, 2024. A certificate of liability insurance naming the Town of Rochester as an additional insured party has been presented. Do I have that motion?
I'll make the motion.
One second.
For discussion, I sent the route, in the backup today, so you can see it's just a little bit of Rochester. And the Mary Lou had asked about vehicles, and there are no, they don't follow with the vehicles. So we don't need to have the vehicles insured. Any other discussion on that?
No, I think it's a great one.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Okay. E, so we can, the long form EAF that we just did would be the secret determination for local law D of 2024, amending chapter 140, the zoning map, SBL 76.10-1-27.100, 6 Sampsonville Road, Cohasset, New York, and located in the industrial I zoning district shall be rezoned to be located in the Hamlet H zoning district at the landowner's petition. So the Town of Rochester, oh, do we need to name the local law for seeker?
No,
Okay, so the Town of
I
Rochester.
mean, if you know the local law number, you can put that in there.
But I would call it D at this point. Okay. The Town of Rochester Town Board determines local law G of 2024 should be classified as an unlisted action under the following 6 NYCRR Part 617 criteria and will not have a significant adverse impact on the environment. No further SECRA review is required.
No, you take out the no further seeker review is required.
Oh, sorry.
You're done by doing the negative deck that you just have
Okay,
in
so
there.
we end that resolution that impacts on the environment. Do I have that motion?
I'll make that motion. I'll make that motion, sorry, now if I just do it.
Is there a second?
I'll second the discussion.
Okay,
So I'm just curious, based off of some feedback we've received, is there a concern about compliance with the current parcel? Is there something that we should be talking to the
There
building department about?
now the building department is aware of that and they told, I believe, my recollection is correct and I'm 99% sure it is. They told this property owner, in order to do what you're doing there, you either have to get the law changed or get a variance. And they have come in the direction of getting it changed to a hamlet district so that they can continue. But the building department's well aware.
But I guess what I'm asking, are there things, so would putting it in the hamlet move it into compliance? Or
I
are there,
believe it would. I believe it would because it's an industrial zone and there's residential things going on there. But Jerry will check to be sure that they are complying with the hamlet regulations.
we can do this seeker determination and then table the local law if we want to wait,
I'd like to
given the,
confirm that.
okay? So we'll do, so for,
Yeah, so do the seeker, you vote on the seeker and then table the other.
okay, so are we ready to do that, the vote
Yeah,
then?
I'm fine.
Okay, so that's a roll call vote.
Councilman Colvin,
Aye.
Councilwoman Dindal is absent, Councilwoman Smathson. Aye. Supervisor Now.
Aye. Okay, so that motion passes, and then we're gonna table resolution F.
On that table, Michael, did you want to talk to the building department directly?
Yeah, I can talk to them.
I just
have-
don't want to miss talking to them if you wanted me to do it. If you want
Yeah.
to talk to them directly, that's great.
Okay. Yeah, I can talk to them.
Okay, then I also wanted to, the comments that we got. These are the two comments, which I was gonna bring this up. So from the planning board, that they wanna ensure. So, I guess those were the two comments we got back from the local and the Ulster County Planning Board.
You give her both comments and me only one?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, you can, and then those were the. Came with the correspondence. that we received.
Are we even able to do what the planning board
I don't know.
asked?
I haven't seen this, so I don't
Oh,
know.
Mary Lou, are we required to, if someone has a violation that's on that property?
I don't know.
that it's on their property, or that even if someone has a violation that is applying to do this, to do a zoning change on the property, like they have a current open one that is unpaid, can we require that they pay that before? No, that's what I thought. We can- I mean, you guys have been learning my taxes, so. I mean.
Okay. Right, yes, sorry.
No. I don't even know.
And Erin,
Yes.
I think you received another letter, but was that after the public hearing was closed?
Yes,
So that's not part of the record.
right.
Okay, just wanted to be sure.
Okay, that's what I thought. I was gonna also ask that. That was just.
So yeah, that's not part of the record, but can we can still table the vote.
Oh, yeah,
Always
absolutely.
table.
Yes,
Oh, yeah, this is, I wasn't.
Yeah.
In the verbal.
okay, so
Yes.
we are at, E now, the open development application. So Mary Lou, did you wanna, I put this on
Yeah,
there?
I can address this.
Okay,
So you can't receive a building permit for your property if you don't have access to a public road. That's the general rule, to a public right of way. Or, a mapped, some road on a subdivision map that's been approved. However, in New York state law, they provide something called an open development district. And if you're a certain distance from a public road, you can apply to the town board to have an open development district so that you can receive a building permit. In this case, someone, and I'm not sure where on Cliff Road it is, owns property. It looks like on Cliff Road. They want open development. So, well, they want a building permit. So the process is they apply for it. The building department says you can't get a building permit because you don't have the access. So they then send it to us for an open development. We then send it to the planning board, who has to review all the standards of the state law and make a recommendation to us to either grant or deny the open development. So what you would do now is send all this stuff referred to the planning board. They'll get in touch with the applicant and say, you've got to show us that you can do something with this road to make it accessible to fire and emergency agencies. And I don't know how they're ever going to do that on Cliff Road. It's been
Yeah. Mary
something
Lou-
that's gone on for decades.
Mary Lou, there was definitely a request like this on Cliff Road right when I started. Is this the same parcel?
I do not know. And was it a request at that point for a open development area, or was it a request for us to take over the road and change it into a town road? We've
It
had
was definitely
several.
open.
It was open development, and I do remember the emergency services signed off on it, but the problem was a road maintenance agreement.
Okay,
If
so
I remember correctly.
it didn't go. So yeah, on this checklist of things that have to be done is emergency services have to sign off on it. And I don't know, maybe the other one was at the other end of the road. I do not know where on the road this is, but what you guys have to do at this point is forward it to the planning board. And wait
But-
to hear back from them, and they'll do all the investigatory stuff.
But we have to make a choice whether we want to do that, or we could deny the request outright.
No, you send it to the planning board for recommendation, and then you can still deny it
Okay,
afterward or approve it, but it has to go to them for recommendation.
okay. Yeah, it definitely was open development because I didn't know what it was there.
Okay.
It was Cliff Road too. Okay. So do we need a
Probably
resolution?
the problem with the road maintenance agreement is this road, probably to the center line of this private road, is owned by other people along the way. And some people on that road really want it fixed up and some don't. So if people won't give permission for them to go over a part of that road that, a neighbor owns, then they're not going to get a road maintenance agreement. That's probably what the
Just
holdup
out of
was.
Curiosity, would he only need road maintenance agreements for everybody up to where his property line is, or would it have to be everybody on that road?
Well, part of that road is public. I remember somebody, not us, someone did a lot of work on trying to figure out who owned all the different sections. So, the agreement could be that he's going to fix the whole road and take care of it. But he has to have access over the whole road to do that. So he's going to have to get easements or permission from other property owners. That is my guess, unless something drastic has changed up there. It's a tough road.
So we need to have a resolution to forward it to them, or we just have to do
Just
it?
a motion to forward it to the planning board for recommendation.
I'll make a motion for what Mary Lou said.
I will second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstain. Okay, so the next, agenda item H, agreement for professional services. So I'll make the motion that the Town of Rochester Town Board authorizes the town supervisor enter into a professional services agreement between Ulster County and the Town of Rochester for administering with an I. Funding provided by the New York State Office of Children and Family Services for youth recreational programs operated by the towns and city in Ulster County as presented.
Can I make
Yeah,
one comment
okay.
on that? Oh, go ahead, make your motion in second.
Again,
Okay,
I noticed that in the beginning of the contract, it shows the dates as June 1st through September 30th, which I assume is when they're allowed to give out money during that time period. But then Schedule A says July 8th through August 23rd, which
That's-
is our camp thing. So I think they should match. Or it should, you know, because the first part says that we're providing services from 6/1 to 9/30.
yeah, because 6/1 is the sign up. And then they're doing
What's
all of
September 30th?
September 30th. I don't know what September 30th would be, but.
I think what that is that's a
Okay.
period of time that New York State says they can provide this money for. But I don't like something that says we're providing services from 6/1 to 9/30 when we're actually providing the services from 7/8 to 8/23, which is what they have in Schedule A.
this, which is the scope of services.
Yes.
Does it say, hold on.
This is the one that's Ashley.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Or
I was gonna say, Ashley looked at it, I assume.
So the term of agreement
Summer program.
is June 1 to September 30th, but in Article 1 scope of services, it says it agrees to do it as identified in Schedule A. So I just don't want to make it sound like they're doing this from June through September when they're not.
Right. That's my concern.
Hold on, but isn't this for just youth recreation? It doesn't explicitly say summer?
It's,
The
there-
scope
no,
of
it's
services
broken
is for a
out.
camp.
So, but it says, Article 1, it says the town agrees to perform services identified in Schedule A.
Right?
And then in Article 2, it says services beginning. Yeah,
So it's inconsistent. So I would just ask the county, you know, if you can make that change. If not,
Just
not,
pen
not
ink,
the end of the world, but
Mary Lou, we can just pen and ink change and then send it back to them?
yeah, I mean, you can do that, but let them know it's coming that way. And if they have a problem, we can redo it next week or something. But it's inconsistent.
So. You're saying because in schedule and the term of the agreement, but this isn't specific to our township, so it's saying any township that has, that service is beginning June 1st to September 30th.
Right, but it says the town agrees. That's us. We're the town. I think the money's probably made available by the state from June 1st to September 30th, but we're not providing a camp during those dates.
No, it's that's what's considered summer for the states. It's not their pay.
Right,
That's-
but, right, the town agrees to perform the services beginning June 1st and ending September 30th.
I see, we can ask for the change.
So can we make that change here and then vote on it as changed and then Supervisor?
Yeah, and then if we get pushback, we can, at your audit meeting, you can do it this way, even though I think it's wrong.
Okay.
So yeah, I would make that amendment and then amend the motion to say to authorize the agreement as amended.
What were you guys saying?
I think it's due at the end of the month.
Yeah.
So I think we do.
Yeah, it was time sensitive, which is why I put it on there.
But I don't think it's like if we don't sign it tomorrow. Right, it's due the 30th. Yeah, first.
I think, yeah, the idea, they do want to get it in so that, we also have to make appointments for the program. So that they can get it right. So what would you guys like to do? You want me to, change the agreement and then vote and then see if they accept it?
Yeah, I would say authorize you to change the term of Article 2 term of agreement to align with Schedule A, with the period of performance in Schedule A. And then you can send it to them with the pen and ink change, and if they have an issue, then you can get the formal copy, or we can vote on it again at the end of the month.
Okay, let me just make sure we're not missing anything, because I think. The staff, I think. In terms of the staffing, I just don't want to change it. The date listed.
I mean, it's
The
the county,
report,
so I don't.
so the town shall complete the report by September 30th. It says that. Those might be our dates.
June 1st to September 30th. I don't think it's a big deal if we sign it as is. I understand what
Okay,
we're
then do it as is.
saying for consistency, but I don't think the county is out to.
I know, well, I talked to. I know that we need to make the appointments before June 1st. For the staff. To get them in so that they can get trained. So that's what I'm thinking. I don't want to limit the dates in the beginning and then that have unintended consequences.
Well, maybe is the trainings, maybe that's why it's like that. Maybe the training is going to be in June. Maybe that's why and the
Yeah.
reporting September 30th. If that's a reasonable explanation, then I'm okay as is.
Okay, I think that's my understanding, that the staff is going to be appointed and trained in June.
Okay,
And
then it makes sense.
okay, great.
Was that discussion?
We workshopped that discussion.
Yes.
Okay, I think we can,
I make a motion to,
I think we
already do it?
I think we made, this was discussion, so all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain. Okay, so I will sign this. I'm gonna do that now so I don't forget. Okay, great. So, oops. Next agenda item is designation of a town holiday. The recommended resolution pursuant to the employee handbook and the IBEW local 363 collective bargaining agreement that the following is added to designated town holidays for 2024. I do not know if that's a complete sentence. All offices shall be closed for services on this date. I have Tuesday, December 24th, 2024 for Christmas Eve.
I'll second.
Um,
Motion.
I asked for the motion.
I'll make the motion then.
Okay.
And
I'll second.
Hmm?
I'll second it then.
I don't have to third it.
Is there any discussion? So so this is for Christmas Eve. We could also elect to include New Year's Eve if we wanted. But I wanted to start here.
I personally would like to include New Year's Eve also. I think we have a lot of very hardworking employees, and I think that there's seldom holidays that people will get off during that stretch when kids are out of school and families visiting. So if we can give them both, I'm happy to give them both, but I'm willing to.
I like an argument.
Okay.
I mean, Jake.
So that would be, that's also Tuesday, right?
I was going for that.
Tuesday. December 31, 2024. New Year's Eve. Okay, so it's okay, so do you accept that motion as amended?
Yes.
Okay, so I second it as amended. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstain.
I'm just saying that'll give our Jewish employees 3 days off for Hanukkah for how it falls this year. So that lines up nice.
Okay,
It goes across New Year's.
so the agenda item J, we have to table. So we can go back to agenda item B. I don't know if this is kosher, but our highway superintendent was watching our meeting and supports the resolution as is. So we can just keep it as is.
Were you saying something, Marilyn?
I had crossed off that part. Now I have to like make little notes.
Okay, so we had it tabled with a motion and a second. Should we just make the motion?
Nope, you can vote.
Okay, so we're going back to resolution B. We had, who made that motion?
You have Charlotte.
Okay, Charlotte Michael made the motion. Okay, any more discussion?
I would just like stop sign warning signs, because my biggest concern on that part of the road with the safety, I understand this, you need safety for the stop signs to stop and slow down traffic there. But I am also thinking if I was a young driver where I drove that same section all the time, like how I would probably blow that stop sign if I didn't have a warning beforehand because of where it's at on that curve. So that's all I would like to be added to that. With it, I guess we can say to install the appropriate signage and warning signage. Stop sign ahead of signage, if you guys.
So, yeah, I guess you would have to say to install the stop signs and signs indicating stop sign ahead. But where do you want those? How many feet beforehand?
There has to be some.
I mean, say at the discretion of the.
The discretion of the highway supervisor is fine. I just want to make sure that there is, or superintendent, sorry, that there is some type of warning beforehand. It would also be nice to paint them. maybe.
I'm fine doing that, but I also think we can revisit it. It's, I don't know, I just, I don't know that the warning sign, people are gonna blow the stop sign, they're gonna blow the warning sign too. Unless we wanna get like one of those flashing signs that indicates there's a stop ahead.
Yeah, we can do it like this for now, and come back
The
to
re-
it if we find it.
The request was to, because I live off of Boyce So the two new stop signs that were installed and then removed had related signage that said stop ahead on both sides. I think what they were pointing out is on the Boyce side where the bridge is, there's no stop sign ahead there. So people are flying across the bridge. So they were saying, they were requesting that the signage be moved, and I feel like,
I don't even know what signs are there
I know.
anymore after stuff was removed. So there were warnings and the stop signs?
yes,
Okay.
that was what was installed,
And everything was removed?
yes.
Okay.
So for the new ones, and then I thought what they were saying is that on Boyce on the bridge side, there's no warning that there's a stop sign there, and that stop sign, the other is like pretty,
Yeah, it's not in like a good
you have
spot
to,
see
you have
it.
to creep
Yeah,
forward
well,
after stopping to see the, but, should we say something about,
Well, it says that we direct the highway superintendent to install the appropriate signage, so if it's a three-way stop, like all of them should say three-way stop on the bottom and then have stop sign, warning signs, that's appropriate signage for that type of intersection, if we don't wanna have to clarify.
so we can pass the resolution as is, and then maybe I can just relay
Leave that
that.
to Jeff.
Or
Yeah,
he's
so I know
probably
he's watching,
watching.
yeah, so
Um,
if he could just make it so, cause I think that'll be helpful too. Like, I know three-way stop, like when I see how many that other people are supposed to stop, especially if it's like a road that's recently like changed that. It makes me more comfortable driving if I see like the four-way stop, like I know everyone has to wait.
okay, so we're gonna leave it as
As
is.
is.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstain. Okay, no, it's okay. Okay, so then discussion item, so we are at 8:45. So I'm gonna try and move us through some of these discussion items. Hopefully we can make some progress on them. I sent out a very, very rough draft of highway route requests for bids. I want to open this discussion first by asking, do we want to prioritize this project?
When you say prioritize, what do you mean?
Yeah, do you mean because there could be other projects
Mhm.
involving buildings that would maybe take precedence and not make sense to do
This
this
is
so
most
soon?
likely gonna be like a $70,000 to $100,000.
And it's patched,
It's patched.
and it's not leaking.
It's not leaking to my knowledge. So we can look at this, we can get this in shape so that we could put the bids out, and then we could receive bids and then decide then whether or not we want to do it. That's what I'm asking. Do we want to put the work in right now I'm gonna ask the questions that I have for putting this together. And we put it out there and we see what we get back and then go from there? Or do we want to take a step back and think about all the things that could use a $100,000? So I'm just like putting that out there because we haven't really had the discussion about priorities, and I just wanted to sort of open with that because this was sort of a carryover from, March and April, and we're sort of in a transition period, and I just wanted to open with that.
Unless there's like an emergency, which I think we discussed last time, this is not an emergency. Or there's gonna be additional damage that happens as a result of not taking action, I'd be okay holding off until we kind of look comprehensively at capital projects that we might wanna do and where we might want to put funding that would be used for this. I'm kind of curious how long the patch is supposed to last for. Was it like we're gonna do this because we know we're gonna fix it, in 6 months, or was it like we patched it and it's probably good for 5 years?
I don't think it's good for 5 years. But why don't I think that?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I don't have it on authority at my fingertips. But I don't know that I could, if you give me a sec, I could see what any of our records show for that patch. But I
feel like this is a really quick, short thing that if we do have to do it, so instead of people looking it up now for the question, right, is it an extensive list of questions that we have for doing them? That you have for us for the RF?
basically, I wanted to know so it's a very rough draft, but I wanted to get more direction from the board. And then also want to give Mary Lou a chance to review it, which is not gonna happen tonight, but the question is that, what's the scope of the project? Like, do we want a contractor to do a proposal for the replacement of the roof, in which case they would be telling us what they're doing, or are we wanting, just like, do we want to replace that roof with the same kind of roof? Do we
No.
want a metal roof? Do we want, I guess that's just what, I have it that they would remove the existing roof and install a metal roof. And then, I took another town's highway roof bid, and
They won't, depending on the type of roof, they don't have to remove their roof to install a metal one. So I wouldn't say fully remove, because metal roofs like mine went right over top of the existing roof that I have. So, but just the wording of that, like, I'm not opposed to it if they think like if it has to for the type we currently have, but they might not have to remove it.
do we want to
Remove
require?
slash replace, maybe?
Yeah.
And then that'll be like they're replacing the material then that's using it, but not the entirety of it.
Do we want to require a metal roof, or do we want to do so these were the questions for this, is like, do we want to require specific material, or do we want to put it up to?
I'd rather give as many options as possible.
Yeah, I like to do as much as we know my.
I
life
know.
for it.
When so at some point, this pen's gonna go flying across the room, and it's not gonna be at anybody, it's just gonna be, sometimes pens fly.
Certain direction.
Are we in agreement that we should get this into a condition that then I will send it to Mary Lou and you guys, and then we're gonna keep moving forward on this?
I think it's okay if we delay this. If there's other priorities.
Yeah, I think we can, but I don't think we need to, like, this can go to the workshop. If we are, I don't think we need to, it doesn't have to be time crunched, like, has to be done by like the business meeting, like, I think that we can do this at the workshop meeting and then refer to Mary Lou to have something beginning in July at the business meeting to vote on it.
I also kind of like.
I also want to go see the roof myself and take some pictures.
I may have misheard this, but I was under the impression that because it's a rubber roof, that you'd have to wait to warmer weather anyway before you can do that repair. But I believe the proposal that was submitted was a type of repair that would actually have only held like 1 to 3 years, and that a full roof would need to have been replaced within 5 years.
Yeah.
That's what
That was how I kind of interpreted that, but I could be wrong.
No, that's how I also.
When was that done?
Last year.
The repair.
The repair, last fall.
So we do it sometime.
But that, so there was a repair that was done that was like under $3,000, so that was just done. And I don't know how long that is supposed to last. And then we received a quote just to get an idea that was for like a re-tarring of the roof itself. And you're saying that?
Yeah, I thought that would only have lasted 1 to 3 years with a full roof repair in 5, but I could have.
That's what I was under. I think it said that one of them, but not because it is
Okay.
the 2 separate ones for the 2 different peaks of the building that we had gotten, and I think it was in the lesser of the 2 that it said that.
And so what we had talked about at the last meeting is let's do a RFP and see what we get back. So it could be maybe someone proposes a re-tarring, maybe someone proposes a full roof replacement, but that's what we had discussed doing in this. So, I guess the question is like where do we want to go from this point? Do we want to say that it's open in that way, or do we want to be putting out a request for proposal for longer term roof repair or roof replacement?
I mean, it's weird, it's a hard decision to make because I don't want a building that, I don't want a roof that's leaking and could be hazardous and for something to happen later this year. But at the same time, the amount of money for like a more permanent, long-term one, when we know there's other issues with the rest of the buildings and that we're eventually going to be getting a new one, is kind of
But probably not a new highway.
when you find the right property, and maybe, or, but we could redo it, but like, it's like maybe we,
Yeah.
I mean, that building,
I've always thought if we got a new town hall, highway would still stay there because that would be incredible amount of money to build a whole highway.
So it sounds like maybe what we want is we want to do an RFP for the re-tarring of the roof.
can we make it as broad to be like, we would like our bids of retarring, replacement, or repair as the options of what we're looking for? Like, can we put that, this like these 3 options is what we're looking for?
Would that be a bid or a proposal?
It would probably be a bit if you're putting all, replacement and all the things, because if any of it's gonna be over the minimum bid amount, then and you're doing alternative, it all goes out as a bid.
Okay, so repair, replace.
Repair, replace, refinish the existing,
Resurface.
or resurface there, yeah.
Research.
I was like, I know that wasn't the right word.
Okay, so that's what
Well,
we
we have to-
want in the project specifications. Can we finish this agenda
Yeah.
item? So what I'm hearing is that we will do for repair, replace, or resurface. Do we want to do lowest cost or
No, I think we should evaluate.
Yeah, I think we should do.
best value?
That's
Cause yeah,
fine.
that's so broad that if we did lower, like, we'd have to break it down by lowest cost for each. of
You're
those
right, we do.
categories,
Okay.
which I think would get messy.
Okay, so I have to do the best value eval. Okay.
Bonuses for lady homes, we have to decide that now.
That we have kind of boilerplate that, okay, so I will work on the draft round 2. Okay, so we are going to take a brief recess for bathroom break. 5 minutes.
Don't put it back.
Oh, okay. I'll be back in five.
We have a really big tree down on Doug Road. I've been
Oh,
back and forth with them. Just got crewed up, taking 4 calls and running
Yeah,
out, 'cause I deal with them all the time. Are you gonna do anything else about this today? Should I hang out or?
we probably not.
That's fine. I just wanna know, cause I don't wanna not be here if something
Yeah.
comes up.
Yeah.
But I do wanna deal with these poor people, cause they're, I believe should be cleared. by now,
Okay.
I hope,
Okay,
so.
All right.
And we've been having a lot of trees.
yeah. I'm guessing not given the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I gotta get up at 5:30.
Okay,
You can tell them.
yeah. Okay, thanks, Rich.
Yeah, no worries. Where was Jay on here?
I thought he was gonna,
It ends in H.
oh, Jay, I thought you were talking about Jay.
J9.
HI,
I got no I, no, just H.
oh, I made the amendments
Oh.
at the beginning of the meeting.
Okay.
So, yeah, I made those amendments.
Thought I was thinking.
No, that was the one that you posted, and then I came with amendments.
Right.
I don't know if you heard them speaking, but, we've had that particular intersection as been a problem forever, and we were doing random, traffic there where we put people out to kind of hang out and write a few tickets to people who were doing that
Mhm.
stuff. And typically that lasted between 3 and 6 months, they would slow down. Just get, and then we randomly come back.
yeah.
Just so you know, that's always an option to do.
Yeah,
And it's relatively inexpensive. And if you, I don't know how long it's gonna take to get the signs back to them, but if you need that.
yeah. Thank you, Rich.
There's a big-
Thank
Have a good
you.
night.
Yeah.
Guys,
Night,
thank
Rich.
you.
I-
Bye, Mary Lou.
Bye, Rich.
I was gonna try to come see you. I'm at a meeting here this morning and that my toddler was too cranky to bring her home. But I told her and me and she help with Labor Day for the veterans service.
Okay.
I figured.
Yeah.
We asked you if there are some that she can share.
Okay.
I told her, maybe she- it's my fault.
Yeah, it's always a quick service.
Yeah. But I mean, finding the people in Manuela, I think got minutes from you to figure out if we tabs last year and
Yeah.
stuff like that to try to get.
This Memorial Day.
27th? No. Are we gonna have babies on the float?
Is it the 26th? Yeah, because it's definitely in May, right?
Yeah. It is the 27th.
Hey, speaking of babies,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be a nana.
I just saw that. Congratulations.
And thank you, in October.
Ooh, good month.
It is a good month.
I
What day is
have,
the date?
I don't know the date toward the end, but I have 2 daughters who were born in October. My son-in-law was born in October. His mother was born in October. My poor
Very
daughter.
expensive for you.
It's like my family. We have 3 in a row, so you get 1 day.
I
Yep.
know.
Yeah, my 2 daughters are 2 days apart. And for one, I was having a C-section and he goes, "How about October 22nd?" I said, "Absolutely not. You already delivered a baby for me on October 22nd. Let's give me at least till the 24th.
Okay.
27.
So Mary Lou, you were just gonna give a brief update on
Yes,
draft leaf's proposal for municipal
Yep.
parking.
I talked to Mike Moriello, told him our concerns. He totally understands them. He's gonna go back and talk to his clients. And then in the next couple weeks after he talks to them, we'll try and see if we can come up with something a little bit more feasible for you to consider. So hopefully we'll have something for your business meeting in June.
Okay.
Okay.
Did any board members have anything else on that since we've had some times?
Or to what they have to.
We'll see.
Okay.
We shall see.
Okay, creation of a process for handling correspondence addressed to the board. I was gonna bring that up. I said I needed to table that.
Oh, sorry, I hope that, could we?
Yeah, I will, I was gonna address that in other matters, if that's okay. Did you make any headway on creation of the process for handling correspondence to the town? You and Emily were.
I'm not such a.
Okay,
on
that's
that.
fine.
Yeah,
All right.
It's nice to do this for me right
It's
now.
nice getting through an agenda item in less than a minute. P, Kerhonkson Ambulance Improvement District check-in. I have not received any correspondence.
So I meant to forward it to you guys, sorry. I received, well, just in my, the email between, myself, Holly, the bookkeeper, Bobby, the treasurer from KFAS, and David Bolin, is that Holly has still not received anything from them, and she, let them know that she will not be able to keep them as a client. So they are without a bookkeeper because she still is yet to receive anything besides the financial report that I sent her from us. And she's taken on too many other clients since October to be able to have them added now also.
So, Mary Lou.
But nothing from Kate, that's,
We
nothing
had-
else was.
We had said, that we asked them to get us the items, which were just first quarter and like a budget that matched the financial records we received for 2023. We have not received that, and it's 15. You know, I'm a little concerned about the taxes that we have levied already. And yeah, so I just don't know what we should do. I mean, there's some options on the table, but
Yeah, I mean, you want to enter a contract with somebody, you might want to start considering other agencies.
I personally would, as a director of operations of another nonprofit, I understand the struggles with dealing with a primarily volunteer basis, but that being said, this is also a contract, and I would appreciate at least seeing if we ask for bids from a couple other companies and towns just to see price ranges that we would be up against for options. I mean, I hope tomorrow morning we get an email with everything we need from KFAS, but at this point, I'm very unlikely that will happen, knowing that their bookkeeper resigned from not getting anything for 8 months after she was hired. So I personally would like to at least get quotes from other services to see for next year also to kind of predict we can't remedy this before then. So.
And you may be limited because, you know, you have to have people who are authorized to work in that geographic area. So you may want to look to see who is authorized and reach out to them.
Yeah.
And we would have to do a bit, put that out for bid because is it considered?
I think it's professional services. I'm not sure what we did last time. Do you remember? We'll have to go back and look.
I guess we must have done.
Professional services.
Yes,
We never heard anything from anything else.
For which?
To hire, to choose KFAS for the contract the
Oh, yeah.
first time, we never.
No, we didn't.
I think we did do it under professional services.
Well, I'm still confused though, if we were to hire someone to provide services, they still have a con to operate the town. 911 would still be dispatching calls and responding, so we can't prevent them from operating town, and I don't think that's what we're
No.
discussing. So would we be paying another organization to cover calls but potentially those calls would be covered KFAS by Model Factor Safety Units? I don't know what the logistics of that look like.
I think isn't there a roll call of where they go first? So if KFAS wasn't our area coverage listed with the county, like as our primary one, like if we contracted somewhere else, I think that the first call goes to whoever else we contract with.
I think we should ask that question
Yeah,
of
but definitely get a.
emergency services for the
Yeah.
county. See how that's gonna happen. You know, our not having a contract with KFAS doesn't mean they can't still operate.
Yeah, and there's no indication that they're not making the calls.
Yeah.
I understand.
Right, yeah, and that's the shame of it is it seems that they're doing what they need to do, but you're dealing with taxpayers' money. You can't just hand it out.
Well, to be clear, I don't want to sign a contract or disperse funds until we have the information we need. But I also think it's okay to hold those funds in reserve, either use them in the future or we can do a credit to people if we need to. But I think we have time to kind of look at options and see what we want to do. The other thing we could consider is, the town can get its own municipal certificate of need, and then we can hire externally whoever we want.
Yeah, I mean, I would like it. I know they're still gonna function. They're still functioning now. They're still answering the calls, things like that. To me, the question that I can't answer is the need for the taxpayer money, which I guess is for their company when it's been 6 months, they haven't gotten any funds from us. They're still like that is the disconnect for me is why the necessity of I know that they come in and told us specific equipment pieces, but with what we saw in the last report, what we've seen now, if you can last 5 months not having this contract in place for, it's a 6-figure contract is what's concerning. It's like, what is this necessary? Is as much as they have requested and what we've elected necessary? Or can it be split over the next 2 years to them if we come to an agreement later on? But that's why I want the financials and don't understand that. I do think us getting quotes, there's no harm in getting quotes for a fail-safe. As to have in our collection of options. I also don't want to go somewhere else. I'm a huge fan of supporting nonprofits and volunteerism, and I appreciate their model that they've moved to make things work better since contracting with us. But I just think to have a backup in case this, we do get this and we get financials and we're not comfortable offering something after that if we get all the paperwork or whatnot. I just think having a backup plan or at least knowing how the calls would happen and the information like that, and who would get the calls first then. If KFAS was still operating and we contracted someone else, I think having those answers is still good information for us to have. Even though we're hoping that this will work out, and I'm totally in agreement. I don't mind holding money. I mostly want it as a fail safe. Or if we get to the end of the year and it's now been 12 months of not having any of this for when, or actually really by October, I want to have a fail safe because we need to budget for next year. And know what we're doing in October for this to budget it appropriately if we have to go outside.
I'll try and reach out to county EMS on Friday.
Okay.
So we're holding now. I'll reach out to KFAS. You're gonna reach out to county EMS. What's the summary of that?
To determine what the process would be if we wanted to consider contracting with someone else to as a backup, as a primary for providing the services in the Rochester ambulance district.
And the funds just become fund balance if we don't.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, Mary Lou, what would happen?
I do not know that off the top of my head.
It's a district special.
I think that we have.
It's a
think it's
special
big,
district,
yeah.
so it probably
I think it stays in the fund.
Okay, I wasn't sure if we had to refund it if it isn't used in the.
Well, I think we can carry over like street lighting. And I think we could carry it over if we wanted. I don't
I
know.
remember Mike saying something
About
about
a refund.
refunding, but I remember Mike saying something about it, that's why
Yeah.
I'm curious if that's a.
Could we do a refund from that
I,
fund?
I have no idea. These are probably things we'd have to ask the comptroller if I can't find
Okay.
them. That's a finance or maybe accounting question, not a legal so much.
Right. Okay, I'll try to get an answer to that. Okay. All right. So that brings us to I just wanted to make sure we don't drop this. Do we, for Q, which is the short-term transient rental cap, which we're supposed to set
August.
August,
Our August
okay.
business meeting is what is it, is when, I'll remind the housing committee, their meeting got rescheduled till next Tuesday or next Wednesday night, for conflicts on Zoom. So I'll ask them I'll remind them because they'd like to make
Yeah.
that was a good process that they did, so just a reminder that they want to make any updated recommendations or just tell us, stay the same,
Right.
whatever it is to
One
put it on
thing-
their radar.
One thing I've been thinking about with communications and transparency, and this is just a good like example of this. I did receive correspondence from like a short-term transient rental owner that just said that they just never know what's going on, which I can totally see that we can do a better job communicating. So what I was thinking is this year it would be great if we stuck to our deadline.
Yes, that would be helpful.
Of setting the cap. I think would be great is if we could set it before, at the workshop meeting and then publish the cap, in an agenda so that
Oh,
the public
work on it in our July
Yeah,
workshop meeting and
and
then
then
have it on August.
agenda as what we
As
want it to
what
be,
we want, we'll
so
discuss
that
it.
the public has a chance to, I know it's not a local law, so they don't have to comment, but so the public has a chance
Yeah, they
to
can see the cat before we get into it, yeah. I'm fine with that.
Okay. Great. So that would be, the reason why I brought that up is because you could give the housing committee a deadline of whatever their meeting would be ahead of that.
Yeah, so their June meeting would
Okay.
be their meeting before our July workshop. meeting.
Okay.
So that's good, yeah, because then they have a month. I don't, not to speak for them, but I don't know that they'll make any changes to what they
To what they-
recommended last year, but just to give them the chance to if they want to. I don't want to change last year, but we can talk about that one.
Yeah.
About it.
Okay, great. Do you have anything on that? Okay. The GAR reval proposal follow-up, I was not able to get comparables. You had asked for comparables. I was not able to do that. I did speak with our assessor about it. He sort of gave me a warning that if I was able to find comparables, oftentimes they are quite a bit less, but that they're not very good quality revals. So he just wanted me to make sure that I mentioned that. The other question that we had was in their proposal, they had, I'm just opening it up. Where is it?
Called
Reassessment.
reassessment.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, they had, in the end, unique and highly complex parcels, so we had a question about that. It says, that prior to executing a contract, any unique or highly complex parcels would be identified and they would have an additional cost. And so we the question, I think it was Councilman Coleman asked, like, do we have these and how many do we have? So that we could prepare ourselves for that. So our assessor said that he does not, there, to his knowledge, and he felt pretty confident that we do not have any parcels in the town that would qualify as unique or highly complex parcels. Because it's like a power plant. Like,
Oh, okay.
Not like a.
Industrial park.
yeah,
No,
an industrial park. I asked about,
The, like,
I asked about our solar properties and he said, no, none of those are considered unique and highly complex. So he doesn't think that there would be any. So the only additional cost that we would do on top of what they are proposing would if the board agrees, would be the digital photographs that are at a cost, an additional cost of $25,000 to $35,000. So that would be on top of the $395.
And then the annual license fee. Right.
That is, no, he doesn't think we need that. So that's after the reval. They're showing, so after the reval is post-project completion, we can have a PROS website license at $3,000 a year. At this time, Jeremy does not think that we should do that, but we don't have to. He just doesn't like the program as much, and it's useful for this process, but he doesn't.
Yeah, he prefers the other one that have we approved, we haven't approved getting that.
Not yet.
Correct, okay.
But for this, they're using the PROS website. That's what hosts the customer, the like resident interaction.
Yes.
So, and all of that. So that's what they're utilizing for that. So it's part of the process. But when I asked him about it, he said, we would. So do we, given the schedule, that the project commencement and public education stuff is supposed to start in June. Do you want to vote to enter into an agreement? Or do we want to wait until our audit meeting?
Mary Lou reviewed it already?
Have you reviewed this? Did you look at the proposal? I mean, we've had it on our.
Yeah, I looked at it long ago when we started looking at it, and I was fine with it. And I, in other municipalities, have worked with this company before, and it's been a good experience.
Well, I'm fine with us entering in. I think that it's important, it needs to be done. I just also want to make sure that we don't also need to get to aid in this process for our assessor. I know when we first got it presented, we also have I can't remember the name of the company, the picture, the flyover pictures where you can see the mirror map, thank you. Where you can see storm drain labels on it. I'm happy to approve this, but I just want to make sure that he doesn't also need that at the same time type of thing.
No, it's okay. Basically, this includes aerial photos.
Yes, yeah.
He wanted us to get the street level photos because we don't have enough of those, and so this will help take care of.
Oh, no, I mean separately from this.
Yeah.
Do we have to get him no.
No,
Okay.
they're
that's
gonna
what I
be,
just- sure.
they're gonna be doing their own aerials as part of this, so we don't have to approve them together. We might still wanna do
Do
those
that in the
things.
future. I just want to make sure he didn't need, but when he first presented, I think he was at our budget meeting when he came and presented like everything.
Yes.
All at once, and we were all like, okay.
Yeah, we still wanna look at all of that stuff, but we can do this separately.
Okay,
and
cool. I just wanted to
it
make sure it
won't-
wasn't something.
Yeah,
And start this process also.
Right.
Referring to you, so yeah, I'm fine with approving it then.
okay, so You wanna make?
Sure, I'll make a motion to enter into an agreement with Gar Rebel.
Oh, Guard Associates
Gar Associates
LLC.
LLC for the rebound as proposed. I don't know how to write this without reading it.
Have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstain, okay. I'm tired, okay. So the next item is the watershed preserve forensic land use analysis. I apologize, that was sent to my personal email and I didn't catch it. The follow-up that John had, gotten for us, that was sent to my personal email and he like pinged me. So I forwarded that, that I'm an imperfect person and I make mistakes. Yeah, you put that down. So I sent that to you today. I just wanted to make sure that we don't necessarily drop that. It is something that we have to move. The cost of it would be something that we have to move. Funding around for, so like just in terms of next steps for that, and like, do we want to consider this? Do we, like, it sounded like everyone thought it was a useful thing, but in terms of like the scope of what we're doing.
So I did some homework on this also. Like I said, I didn't get a chance to reach out to Chris Hewitt specifically, but I found what was referenced when he was coming to us about watershed money. And unfortunately, it was like 6 different department, federal and private trusts that normally do watershed grants. Their deadlines are all in the early, like end of winter, early spring, so we've missed the deadlines for all of them for this year. That being said, I think after looking at the requirements for a lot of those grants to get funding to like make it a protected area and get resource funding for preserving it and things like that, and getting signage and whatever else the EPC would want there to make it a park. This would be really helpful if we do want to pursue and go to apply for those next year, because some of them are for, there's like, they had, depending on which site I was on, some had historic watersheds of historic significance, like it goes by also region of which rivers watershed you're in, that you can apply. Certain ones are regional only, and there's other ones that are species specific, that if we have a certain amount of a rare species or anything. So I think having this inventory done of what's there would be very helpful to get future funding. And I think that it was 1,800, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think the cost of the 1,800, us finding that somewhere, is really minuscule for how much funding it could get us with having a report like this to be able to apply.
Mm-hmm.
For if that's something that we want to keep going towards as like a longer term goal for making it like a historic park, walking park, preserved and safe. So, but I am happy to also, if I can also try to help look through the budget and all the millions of budget lines we have.
I think we have the funding currently in professional services. I just don't, there's not like a register of what was earmarked in those.
Oh, gotcha. We have, town board has not, ECC has it.
It would
We have
be,
it under our budget.
yeah,
professional
ECC is
services.
not asking for this to come out of their budget. They're asking for this to come out of the general fund, non-ECC budget.
I mean, I don't think that that's wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to it coming out of professional services, knowing that next year this could help us get like $75,000+ of funding to be able to actually preserve it and do what Chris Hewitt was trying to present to us for almost 3 years ago. So I'm happy to kind of start seeing that through and do that, if you guys are in agreement with that.
Yeah. I don't know, I don't see the urgency of doing it personally, but I support these studies, you know, in general, but I mean, the land is town owned at this point, it's protected. I don't know that we want to make it a land preserve. To me, that seems like it might be more detrimental to the environment if we have people there and there's complications with it, so.
Well, the idea that, originally the proposal was that it should be a park, and what John was saying is he does not think it should be a park, it should be a preserve.
Yeah.
Meaning it's not open for public.
And I don't know that we need to do a study necessarily to do that. If we want to consider putting in some kind of conservation easement or preserving the land, you know, I don't know that we need a pay for a study to do that. I think we can just do that and it will be protected, but I'm persuadable. I don't see the urgency of contracting to do this right now.
I also don't see the urgency, but I don't see the harm in it.
It's just cost.
Yeah, I think I really like the idea in terms of like thinking of the overall budget. I think I'm still feeling pretty like conservative about unbudgeted things. So I think I'm hoping to get like a better handle on that, but I really, the more I read about what this looks like, the more I thought, oh, this is so fascinating. But then in terms of how it fits in overall to like our goals, I like wasn't sure how to like put that into like a priority of ours. So I guess I'm feeling both, you know. The other thing we could do is say that we would like to make sure this happens next year, and get, I don't know. I know that, you know, there was this timing urgency with this particular consultant. So that, I think that was the urgency.
Yeah, I mean, if it has to wait till we can budget it properly next year, I'm also okay with that. That's within our wheelhouse and us being responsible with taxpayer money, that if we are more comfortable waiting, I'm fine with that also. To have them like put it in the budget, know that where it's coming from the budget for next year.
I mean, we can also just move, you know, we can also move funds from fund balance and just say, yeah, it's a priority, we have funds in fund balance. So I'm not being much help right now, am I? I'm being a bad chair.
It's not a priority.
Yeah, I understand where they're doing it too. I think that us as a town board has some other things that need to take precedent first. As much as I want to see a report of that, I do think it would be really interesting and helpful in some ways for things. We don't need to make it head priority right now also. I was looking at it as a financial writing standpoint, which is why I was like, okay, like I can like justifiable in my mind, you know?
Well, and I liked what Kate shared at the last meeting about the historic.
Yeah. We don't have any studies like that, so I would find it fascinating. What was the cost?
It's $1,800 to do the 35 acres. Which, yeah. I just right now don't know how to prioritize unbudgeted.
I think that we table it for now, and we can circle back at maybe our June workshop meeting if you want.
I'll try to, I did have a question for the consultant that I didn't get to ask him.
I can also look from the historic side of things for watershed for funding also for it available.
Yeah.
We might be able to get the HPC funding through this, so I'll look at that also to see if it could end up being like a collaborative thing between the ECC and the HCC, you know, to get this report and information.
Were you guys able to access it? Am I just can't get into that?
The file.
Yeah. Wants me to sign up.
Oh, Oh, just, I think you just hit the X. I was able to,
Oh, wait, it opened.
yeah. Let me
Okay.
see it.
No,
Okay.
yeah. Good now.
But he said that that was a more complicated report than what he would do for us
Oh, okay.
in in his email. So I guess I was a little curious about that. Okay, so I'm tabling it. I feel like we haven't yet decided.
You know, I do also wanna reach out to Chris Hewitt, I just didn't, but once I like found the email, I was gonna go and feel that I think that's entertaining on this, so I was like, I don't wanna call him while I
Yeah.
got a guilty conscience, so.
Okay,
Yeah.
So- it's 9:33. I have an other matters on the agenda.
Oh.
Was it for this?
It was about other matters.
Oh, okay, I was just, so one of my other matters is gonna be, I'm just gonna put this to the board. There are some time sensitive things that I didn't get to, such as, I feel like the truck cap for the dog control is time sensitive. There are some appointments that I don't think we're actually gonna be able to make tonight that are a little time sensitive. So I wanted to request, I mean, I could call a meeting, I guess, but I wanted to see if there's any possibility for us to have a meeting next week to pass some of these resolutions that I wasn't able to adequately prepare for tonight.
Do you wanna do that and do the zoning map? And do another like short meeting of that, and I'm okay with that, like a little short, like max 2 hour
Yeah,
meeting, and we do zoning map and
And
then
then
the resolutions
Yes.
and just power through it all.
Yeah.
I'm open to that.
I know that we Wednesday and Thursday are out for this building.
Is it just gonna be the three of us probably? Can we meet at town hall?
If it's open to
It's
the
out.
public,
And you have the open to the public.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
I
there would
don't know
have,
who would be there.
Okay.
You guys tell me, I'm actually.
What day?
pretty
Do it in
open.
the supervisor.
we would just, if the public comes, we'd have to make sure they have places.
There
to sit.
has been times in the past where we've had 2 meetings going and one met in the town clerk's office.
Yeah,
Because it is a little bigger, if that's what you need to do.
uh-huh,
Yeah, that's up to you.
okay. What day, is there a day next week that you could?
Yeah, I can probably do Thursday.
Yeah, I'm
We're
open.
doing short.
Yeah,
Sure, 2
Yeah.
2 hours. We're getting takeout.
and we think we could just do that at the town hall.
I don't see why we couldn't.
You could easily use my round table for you guys to.
Oh,
look at,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then
And
if there
we
is
can
public,
we
you
can put
set up
chairs in
chairs in the lobby.
Okay,
That would work.
And we can still stream it from there too. We'll have-
Yes, we can stream it.
internet
Yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff.
yeah, we can stream.
Do you need me at that meeting, Erin?
I don't think so.
Do you know about truck caps?
I do.
I might have some things.
no.
Yeah, I might need, I might have some things I need you to look
Input?
over ahead of that meeting.
Okay,
Okay,
6:30.
6:30. Okay, so I'd like to make a motion that the town board schedules a special meeting on Thursday, May 23rd at 6:30 PM located at the town hall at 50 Scenic Road, Accord, New York.
And for town clerk to advertise.
And for the town clerk to circulate notice.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstain. Thank you so much. I feel really bad that I had to ask you guys to do that, but
I would rather have 4 2-hour meetings a month than,
Well,
Okay.
no, listen to me, I
Okay,
would rather have short 2-hour meetings like that.
so
Than like,
you had another matter?
Yes.
What's that?
So we have a vacancy on the community preservation
Yes.
plan. We have, recommendation for somebody we could appoint. I don't know if we want to discuss that because it is kind of time sensitive.
Yeah, I did want to keep our executive session. And if we want, we can discuss that there and then come out and make the appointment if we want. Or if you're ready to make that appointment, we could just make that.
I'm fine with it.
Okay, so I do have a question ahead of that though. So Mary Lou, we had the ad hoc committee, the community preservation. And we had a member resigned, but they resigned to the town board. Is that proper?
Well, they should resign to the clerk. Even though it's an
that-
ad hoc committee, all resignations go to the clerk.
Let me see. I don't know.
I didn't see.
Okay, I don't think it's official until Kate gets it then.
Can we send it
Right.
to
Can
her?
we send it to Kate?
Or can we appoint, we never even said how many seats were on that committee. Can we just appoint someone to it?
Yeah,
And
if you
then-
don't have a set number of seats, you could appoint someone else to the committee.
Right?
I don't remember that being.
I don't remember. I can look in the minutes.
I don't remember there being a cap either. I
So-
think we just did 5, so each of us picked up.
Yeah, I think you all just picked a person, right?
Yeah, we all just picked the person.
And we just
Simple.
put them on to this committee that actually. So I think I'd be okay if we just want to appoint this person to that committee. And then we will ask
And then we'll ask.
the person that is resigning to resign to the town clerk officially.
And we can't just forward the resignation? The clerk?
No, they have, because they resigned to you. They have to write a letter to the town clerk or an email
But if they resigned,
to you. It doesn't count.
So in terms of boards with.
she can never
seats-
leave the committee?
Right, in terms of boards with seats, you can't remove someone, so the resignation has to be official for there to be a vacancy. But what I'm saying is, I don't think we make a number of
just need a number.
seats, so it doesn't.
Oh, yeah, I get that. I'm just wondering, like, a scenario where somebody resigns and then you can't get in touch with them.
Yeah, that has happened on the
Yeah.
EC for years.
Really?
Yes,
I mean,
It was
it's
like
everything.
three people,
Interesting.
yeah,
Okay. Well, yeah, so let's do the appointment before.
okay. Great,
Michael?
yeah, you wanna make it, or it was, no? You wanna make it?
It's replacing my person.
Let's-
I would like to make,
Are you looking for her name?
no, I'm looking for the. I'll do this. There we go. I would like to make a motion to appoint Sydney Gannon to the, is it Community Preservation Plan Committee?
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, okay. So I did receive, and I actually was trying to find the email. I think you all might have received it too, but we got an application for an ECC vacancy seat. Did you receive that?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I just got a housing.
Okay, okay. So then we won't do that. Okay, so then next, we're gonna do the zoning map review on the 23rd. So that brings us to our executive session. which I would like to ask, Kate to stay for the first, well, yes, for the first item.
Okay.
And then I'll talk you guys through that. So is that, unless there's anything else from the board?
I'll make a motion to enter the executive session at 9:40 PM.
I'll second.
Do we
Oh,
have to say the reason?
yes.
For the purposes,
For
yeah.
the purposes of discussion of matters leading to the employment, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person,
Matters leading to the appointment
matters leading to the appointment
of
of
particular
particular
persons
persons,
and
and
discussion
discussion of litigation, ongoing
of
current
current.
litigation.
I'll second.
Okay, I was like, what else did I miss?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstain. Okay.
My
I'm
God.
going to.
What happened with the chicks?
Oh,